cell phones to silent. Make sure I've got mine set that way, yeah. Okay, we'll start today with the invocation, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you, thanking you and praising you for our great nation. We thank you for the plan you gave to our forefathers by which to govern our nation, and for the division of powers, so that our destiny does not rest in the hands of one person. Father, as we meet today as local elected leaders, we ask you to fill us with the spirit of your wisdom to make decisions that would strengthen and prosper our county and our citizens, and that our actions will be pleasing to you. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a business item to take care of before we can get into approving the agenda and discussing any agenda changes, and that is the appointment of an interim county attorney. Mr. Compton?
Yes, ma'am. North Carolina General Statute 153A-114 says the Board of Commissioners shall appoint a county attorney. And with the events that have transpired recently, we're in the need of an interim county attorney, and I'm recommending that we appoint Neil Yarbrough and his firm as our interim counsel.
And I'll entertain a motion to...
So moved.
Okay, motion has been made to approve the resolution appointing Mr. Yarbrough as interim Lee County attorney. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
I didn't have to say that I was going to give a good word for you because I've worked with you in the past. Okay. Next on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So first of all, I'll ask if any of my colleagues have any additions to the agenda for today.
I move we approve the agenda.
Motion's been made to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Next is the consent agenda, and I myself have an item to pull for just either questions or discussion. Does anybody, any of my colleagues have one?
Yes. F, G, and H.
F, G, and H. Okay, so you want to pull those for discussion?
Yes. Or questions.
Okay, F is the health department, G is wastewater today, H, scattered site housing. Okay, these go under old business. We've discussed these somewhat in the past, so I don't think it's new business.
It'd be your choice.
Somebody can make a decision. Let's put those items under old business. Those items, yeah. How about that? F, G, and H.
Madam Chair, I'm requesting that item K1 and 2 also be brought off the consent agenda and added.
Okay, item,
K1 and 2.
okay, so all of item K. And that one is,
Change in classifications, county pay plan.
that probably would be under new business. Okay. So we're going to pull item K from the consent agenda and add it to new business item E. Any other further changes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And public comments. We have one individual who signed up for public comments, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kirk Smith, 3108 Avons Ferry Road. The paper the other day had a headline that you were going to have a very full table today. And one of the issues that came up something about a Raleigh executive jetport wanting money alone. Well, why are we Lee County taxpayers going to be on the hook for a Raleigh executive jetport expansion or concern or improvement to a hangar? And then secondly, who paid for the naming rights of the Raleigh executive jetport? Not the taxpayers, I hope. With that being said, I would ask that you might consider approaching the city of Raleigh, because it's named after them, and ask for financial assistance from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, next on the agenda, we're down to old business. Item A, update on April 2011 tornado property damage. Mr. Bidwell.
Madam Chair, members of the Commissioners, it is a pleasure to be with you this afternoon and to give you an update on some of the recovery efforts relative to last spring's tornado, or the tornado of 2011 to be more precise. I think everyone, and I have written comments here, so I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to give you an overview of what's been going on, and hopefully you find that helpful. The process that we went through following the storm was indeed a very, both a very tragic one and a very rewarding one. Tragic in that we lost so much property and there was human disaster. Remarkable in the fact that a number of people throughout this community and beyond this community came together for that recovery effort. And I know that you have a great deal of pride in your emergency management efforts by the county. And you should. They've done a remarkable job, and they are all to be commended. And in addition, all the other efforts that went along with the recovery from that tornado. From the day that the tornado occurred, we realized that we were going to have to make a very special effort to step up to the plate to make sure that we were organized to be prepared for the rebuilding itself. And we organized both the planning and inspections components of our department to make sure that happened. One of the examples, I guess, is Lowe's hardware store, where they were able to rebuild in a record time. We made sure that when they came in, that we had everything in place for them to be able to secure a building permit almost immediately and to begin that process. And our inspectors and planners worked pretty much around the clock to make sure that happened. But there was a lot of other damage beyond that, and we had to be prepared for that as well. And one of our commitments to you at that time is we were not going to make the tornado victims a victim twice by regulation or process. So we made sure that we streamlined the process so that anybody that needed to rebuild immediately were able to do so, and that we were able to maintain the process of doing inspections as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And I think that we have achieved that goal as well. We also work considerably with Slider and other volunteer groups in order to make sure that we identified some appropriate issues and that we responded in kind. In doing that, one of the first things that came up that I believe that you all received were some complaints from some of the neighborhoods that recovery was not taking place quickly enough with some of these homes. We addressed that effort by doing an immediate extension of the original needs assessment survey and looking at all the properties and assessing where they were at that point in time. In doing that, we discovered that there was a number of properties that we had no record of any building permits or any restoration work going on. I think the original list started out to be about 120. Once we started looking at that list and comparing against our physical data, we found that a lot of those had started and were indeed under repair or in the process of being removed. So we were immediately able to pare that list down to below 80 and eventually to a group of about 29 that we started working with about 10 months ago. In doing that, we again worked with Slider and some of the other volunteer groups and trying to provide assistance where other assistance was not available. We talked with insurance agents, we talked with a number of mortgage companies trying to help expedite that process, because in some cases, just the paperwork among the lenders and the insurers was pretty overwhelming. And there was a number of people assisting that effort, and we just made sure that we were responding appropriately as well. During that process, we also identified some commercial properties that were not moving along very well at all. And most specifically, that would be the Southeast Shopping Center on Horner Boulevard. Very early on in the process, we had heard that they were having insurance difficulties between the tenants and the owners of the property. We kept asking questions and trying to identify what the real issues were. And towards the end of the year, we started hearing that there were some more practical difficulties, and both the permit that we had given Tractor Supply for their temporary tent was about to expire, and that the owner of the property was not moving forward. We made some assessments of that. We started talking to the owner almost on a weekly basis, on occasions on a daily basis, to make sure that we understood what the owner was saying. He was citing insurance issues, and we kept pressing that matter. And eventually, we had very frank conversations, and the property went up for sale sometime in late February, early March of last year, of this year. And then when that property went on for sale, very quickly we started seeing people that were looking at the property, and we started working with buyers doing due diligence. And so towards the end of April of this year, the property was sold. We've been working very consistently with the new owners. And as of today, we've issued permits for the complete restoration of that end of the building for tenants including Big Lots, Tractor Supply, and a new company called Dunham Sporting Goods. And they are currently they've just received permits for the upfit of that project, and they're fully under construction right now. So we're hoping that by the fall of this year, late fall, probably in the November, December area, that we'll see those stores starting to open back up. We're very pleased to see that. In addition to that, we ended up with about 4 residential properties that we were concerned about, and we've been working with those property owners. And at present, we have 4 unresolved pieces of property, 3 of which that we've ascertained some action on, and I've listed them here as well. One on 3707 Woodside Drive is a foreclosure, and we're in contact with the Veterans Administration now, trying to get some resolution of where they're going with that property. A house on Broadway Road, the owner intends to voluntarily demolish that property before the end of October. And 3215 Kendale Drive, that home is now under construction, is about 75% complete. That leaves us with 1 property on Rice Road where we can't find the owner. We're continuing to try to find that owner and find some resolution. But at some point in time, we may come back to you with a recommendation on how to dispose of that property as well, which may include some of our normal recommendations, such as involuntary demolition, but that will be at y'all's request and y'all's direction. So we'll present that sometime in the very near future. One of the things we recommend not happen is that property continue to sit, because it has a blighting effect on the surrounding neighborhood. But that will be at your direction and your discretion.
Mr. Briggle, have you ever had any communication with the owner of that property on Rice Road since the tornado?
And to my knowledge, no, ma'am.
Do you have a local address?
We have addresses, but there's no response. The person has just disappeared.
Are family members around here?
Well, we're hoping, one of the things that happened in our last report is we started talking about it and it was in the paper, and the next day we got phone calls. So that would be a very positive consequence of this meeting if someone was to know where that individual was, and they could give us a call and contact us.
Was the owner living in it, or was it a rental?
I don't know, Mr. Parks. I'm inclined to say it was a rental, and we don't know where the property owner is, but I think I would be, I'm just guessing at this point. I can confirm that to you and send you an email, let you know. But I think one thing I want to really assure you is that we're not trying to go after people just to go after them. We'll not take any action or make any recommendation to you until we feel like we just don't have any other choice. And again, it's at your discretion, so we'll leave that up to you.
How about the Hibachi Grill on Horner Boulevard?
Thank you. I'd almost forgotten that. That property and an adjacent out parcel were purchased by BB&T. As a consequence of that, they have submitted a plan for review, and we have a preliminary plan approval for a new branch bank site on both the restaurant site and the adjacent out parcel. One of the things that complicated that whole process were it was a securitized loan that investors had held the paper on. They were being very difficult about about all the issues that related to the transfer of title. And so that held that closing up probably about 60 days. But
Yeah, the big concern I have there is that's probably the most stark eyesore that we have coming into the
Absolutely.
county from the south.
Absolutely. And we have commitments by BMD that they're going to proceed very quickly once they get they're waiting on their architectural plans to be finalized now. That's all we're waiting for. I think though, Mr. Womack, that once that's done, you'll be very pleased with that site because the actual design on the branch was very attractive. It's a very, very fine building. We'll be proud to have it.
So I think the Woodside Drive, the residential, is the one that I received the most calls from constituents in my district. Is that the one that you're working with Wells Fargo because it's a bankruptcy of the
Yes,
owner?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Who my understanding is a veteran who's in a nursing home somewhere. So
Yes.
it's kind of a bad situation. So where are we with that?
In my past experience working with damaged properties like this, I've usually been very aggressive with the lender in terms of them doing what they needed to do. And that's probably what I'll do here unless you all tell me to do otherwise.
Define what you mean by being aggressive with the lender.
Fix it or we're going to tear it down.
Okay. Because I know that's a concern to the adjacent property
Yes, ma'am.
owners, and they've been very patient, whatever, but,
The lender's trying to protect their asset, and we're trying to protect our community. And I think we need to be more aggressive about protecting our community than they are protecting their asset.
what asset is there to protect? It's-
Well, it's not much, but it's something they hold title to, so I'll hold a lien on. But part of the issue of that too, Ms. Shook, was the damage in the yard outside of that. And we've been working with Slider and other volunteers to try to get some cleanup on that as well. So we're not going to just, leave it completely up to the lender to do that. We're going to continue to find some cleanup as well. Our volunteers, by the way, have been just exceptional. We've found a number of cases where we just didn't see any way out, and some volunteers stepped in and took care of the issue for us. And we're trying to commend them in a number of ways. Again, thank you for that. I've been wanting to have an opportunity to do kind of a closeout. This is probably the closest we'll ever get to the end, although you, as we'll hear from emergency services, you never really have an end to a disaster.
Have our county attorneys been working with you on the Woodside property?
We really haven't carried that to the attorneys yet because we were still trying to, we never carry it to the attorney until we feel like we're at a point where we got a recommendation to the board for an action, and we haven't gotten there yet, although we'll probably be there shortly.
You're going to do a demolition that's going to require
It would
county
require your
attorney
action.
approval, right?
Yes, ma'am. It would go to the attorney before it would come to you all for a recommendation. That's the normal process. But we always do so carefully. We never ask for demolition unless it's a last resort. I believe I'm introducing the next one too. So.
Okay. Yes,
Fine.
you are.
I think we're going to have Roger come up real quick and talk about, I think, our FEMA reimbursement, where we are.
Okay.
Commissioners, I'm Roger Milliken with Emergency Services. I'm not Shane. He's tied up with a very large call this afternoon, so he couldn't be here. We ended up with 6 projects that FEMA's defined with the tornado. 2 small projects, which we were paid very quickly, and 4 large projects. The large projects over $60,000. 2 of them have been completed and have been sent to FEMA in Atlanta for their review. One, it will be completed this week, and the last one is under final review, and I'm hoping it'll be completed in a couple of weeks. That doesn't mean we get paid. We have not gotten final payment on any of the 4 yet. Checks in the mail Friday, they claim. We are supposed to be getting the final check for the debris cleanup, which is $232,000. They will cut the check Friday. After that, that will leave us with $239,000 left to be paid. I can't tell you, the state can't tell you how soon we get the rest of that money, but they are proceeding to get this last project closed out. Then we'll just be waiting for FEMA Atlanta to do their final review to get the money to us.
What's holding up the final project from being closed out?
Just review process. The girl I'm working with in North Carolina Emergency Management has got 15 counties from the tornado that she's trying to process the paperwork. Your efforts did move us to the front of the line, but there's still, they keep asking questions and we have to provide answers for the little details. They want every I dotted and every T crossed, and that does take some time.
So you're saying our efforts, you mean the
The efforts.
communications we sent to
Yes,
our congressional
yes.
delegation? So we've got $239,000 outstanding in expenses that we've incurred, but we're due reimbursement on?
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
The overall projects will be about 1.81 million. That's just from FEMA. That's not all the other costs. But that's the FEMA state reimbursement to us from the expenses that were incurred.
Will that come directly to us, or does it have to go to the state first and then state?
The check will be made. The check Friday will be made to Lee County. Lisa will get the check.
We haven't, Roger, we haven't delayed payment to any of our contractors as a result of being delayed on our
The
reimbursement.
delays were to the emergency services in the other counties. We have paid 75% of the reimbursements to them, and waiting for the final 25%.
Talking about in-kind services provided by our neighboring counties.
Right.
And so the commercial contractors, though, that came in here and did the work, they've been paid, right?
As far as I know, that would be a
Yes.
Mr. Crumpton question.
Yeah, we funded all of that.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you, Roger.
In fact, they said the check's in the mail.
Okay, next on the agenda, presentation of community development on highway changes. Marshall, down?
Marshall's not here,
You're Marshall today, okay.
Marshall's got a son is starting college, and he's trying to put him in school today, so I'm subbing for it. We have two presentations, Madam Chair, that relate to US 1, really on both ends. The first one we're going to talk about is a project on US 1 and Tramway, and the second one is US 1 and Hawkins Avenue. We have, for the first one, a developer here, but the first one is a developer-driven project. The second one on Hawkins Avenue was initiated by a city councilman, Councilman Taylor, relative to some traffic issues on Hawkins Avenue. We have representatives from DOT for both to address specific issues. But the first one is really related to a new commercial project on Tramway US 1 NC 78. This is the project that everyone's talking about, where the considerable amount of activity has been going on for months. Just to kind of review the process with you, when a commercial developer comes in, they go towards our technical review process, which in Lee County is a very expedited process. We put all the players at the table at one time, so the developer is talking to all the people they need to talk to at the same opportunity. In that process, one of the things that has to take place is to secure a driveway permit, and I'm using that term very generally, when that property needs to access a public thoroughfare or state highway. And in this case, we're talking about two state highways, NC 78 and US 1. During that process, then the developer is required to go to DOT and begin the process of initiating whatever design changes that DOT will require as a consequence of that project. And that then becomes part of the final review of the project as it moves forward. In that process for this project, for the project at Tramway, we have a developer representative here today that's going to talk about the negotiations that they've been having with DOT and their subsequent design that they've come up with. That presentation has already been made to City Council. Mr. Parks, we're sorry we couldn't get it all on the same day. We'll try to do better in the future. Our effort here, because it affected all jurisdictions so significantly, we thought it was important that it come before you all, so you all have complete information about what's being discussed. And with that, Mark Laskowski is representing the developer, and I'll ask Mark to step up.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Laskowski. Afternoon, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. I'm Mark Laskowski. I'm assisting the developer Bobby Branch in developing the property out on Highway 78 and US 1 there in Tramway. see if we can get this pointer to work, I think, here. Okay, we got a red light. Basically, you probably have seen the activity happening out in Tramway, across from Hardee's. To give you an overview of the development to start out with, there's approximately 50 acres, 49 to 50 acres that's assembled, made up of about somewhere between 8 and 10 different lots and tracts of property within that intersection. What has been designed for that intersection in that property is approximately 9 out parcels. I do not know if you guys have seen a site plan that was included in your package. If not, I will try to describe it for you. Here on the corner will be a natural corner out parcel here. This being US 1, this being NC 78, and this being Center Church Road. Along US 1, there will be approximately 5 out parcels. There will be a corner out parcel here. There will be several more going all the way down to Bryant Drive, where Bryant Drive is adjacent to Tramway Baptist. I believe that's the church that's on the corner. Along 78, there's about 4 more out parcels going in this direction along 78, going toward Bruce Coggins Road, I believe, in that direction. On the corner of Bryant Drive, back over here in US 1, that particular piece of property is about 2 acres. That's owned by Albert Adcock. That property is in this development and will be in the restrictive covenants for this development. However, the remaining out parcels, which would be 8 out parcels, are Mr. Branch's out parcels. That will leave behind all of these out parcels, that will leave approximately 30 acres to be developed behind the 9 out parcels along US 1 and Highway 78. As Mr. Bridwell was discussing, we have to get driveway permits to access this property. So we've been in negotiations with DOT probably for about 6 or 7 months now. What DOT requires is an initial TIA, traffic impact analysis, where we have to hire an independent traffic consultant, which we did out of Greensboro, named Davenport Transportation. They developed a traffic impact analysis. If we develop this entire site as shopping center with the out parcels and a 30-acre retail center in the back, they did an analysis on trips per day. If that was a full build out, how would that impact this intersection? Well, in doing so, they come up with a lot of improvements that had to be done to US 1 and Highway 78. One improvement was on the southbound lane here, where Walgreens sits here in this corner, this being Center Church Road. The southbound lane, the grade change, the elevation between the southbound lane and the northbound lane is dramatic. It's also dramatic at the intersection also as you leave and come across. Well, we would have had to put in 2 dual lefts coming onto Highway 78 going southbound. Well, what that would have required was then raising the southbound lane up to where the northbound lane was. And you would have had to go north and south a fair amount of distance to be able to even do that. That would have been a nightmare with traffic control and let alone just the infrastructure costs that it would cost to raise the north and southbound lane up to the northbound lane. So, and then Highway 78 would have to receive those 2 leftbound lanes. So Highway 78 would have turned in somewhere between 6 and 7 lanes. It would have been a lot of improvements on Highway 78. So we scrapped that idea, and we ended up going back to DOT, and our traffic consultant came up with another suggestion, which was the directional crossover super street concept. A lot of people haven't really never heard of that concept. There's 2 prime examples for that concept. If you've been to on Highway 17 between Wilmington and Little River, they have adopted that concept there. There are several U-turns and left turns as you go through there. You can't go from one intersection across to the other. Another place where they just recently have done is in Spring Lake, right there in front of Cagle's Furniture. That particular traffic pattern that you see happening in front of Cagle's Furniture on Spring Lake going into Federal, or Spring Lake rather, that's exactly about what's going to happen out here.
Have you driven through that one?
I did all the survey work for ST Wood, did the infrastructure, and I laid all of it out for them.
No, that's a tragedy down there.
So,
It's a mess. About 6 hours a day. You can't get through there.
yeah. Well, this is where I brought DOT in regards to.
I've never seen a bigger cluster in my life that's trying to get to and from Fort Bragg down Highway 87 with that super street concept. It's horrible.
To death going through there.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is a different concept. However, and I will defer to Rob here in a few minutes, maybe, or James, in terms of safety.
So we want to do, is that what we want to do to Tramway? Is we want to turn it into the area around Linden Oaks?
Okay, well, the thing about the Super Street concept, and this is where my expertise are not here in this DOT's, is there's been studies done that says the safety factor is tremendous, a lot better than what it currently would be if you left it the way it is.
I've left the road 2 or 3 times avoiding accidents down there around Linden Oaks.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a mess.
My concern is, we have 2 schools in that area.
Yeah.
Right.
On each side. And I noticed, in this plan, 78, you can't access Center Church Road going straight across. I don't know what this is going, of course, I know folks can find alternate routes, but that's one of my concerns, and I just wonder how much input the school board and the superintendents had in the traffic problems they've had out there. They've had the traffic problems, which you're probably aware of in the past. And the church school also. This looks to me like it's going to create more traffic.
Well, I'm going to go through the design of it and
Okay.
kind of give you an intake of the way it's supposed to work. But in regards to your question, we did have a TRC meeting, and I know Reed Cagle's in charge of the bus routes. We brought that up at the TRC meeting, and Reed initially didn't see any problem with it. I will also offer the courtesy to talk to the school board and go through this same presentation with them and try to work with them and their concerns. We're in the design process right now. We have not started the construction drawings, meaning that we can take some public input and some commissioner input and some school board input and hopefully implement those into the design, if at all possible. I mean, there's a technical side of the design that has to work, obviously, but if there's some things that we can do to help some of the concerns, we can definitely look at.
The other concern is you got people that are going across Tramway Road there now all the time. Now you're gonna channel them down the road and back around and everything else for them to come on into Jonesboro. And
How many alternative courses of action did they look at in order? You said that there was one where they looked at trying to, reduce the elevation differential.
Right.
Was there any other courses of action looked at, like having the developer buy, the necessary right of way so that they could actually redirect traffic around as opposed to changing the traffic velocity through the tramway crossing?
Buying additional right of way or buying other people's property, I mean, I'll just tell you firsthand, that probably was not looked at. From an economic standpoint, it wouldn't have been feasible.
Yeah.
To not only put in the infrastructure that is needed traditionally, but also buying right of way, the project could not support that. That is the other factor in this too, is from an economic standpoint, just as if the county was doing improvements to roads or the city or anyone else, there is an economic factor. I mean, first factor is safety. Second factor is economics too. And the economics help drive the decision a little bit also about where this project goes. And the Super Street concept is by no means cheap either. I mean, the infrastructure here is well going to be over $1 million to do this. It all has to be funded by the developer. No help from government, any governments whatsoever.
Mark, I know the policy in the past, including shopping centers and what have you, your turn lanes, the developer had to pay for those in the past. But I'm just looking at the Allen US 1 78. I guess my question would be, have the funds been allocated for what we need to do there, or is that something that's got to be done after you decide what you're going to do?
Well, once the concept has been determined, and right now the negotiations between us and DOT is, we looked at the traditional way in the Super Street concept, and everybody has agreed the best concept is the Super Street concept. And that's the stance from the developer side and DOT side and our consultant side. What we're at now is basically informing the public, which is the commissioners and the council members. And the next step after this is actually hold a public informational meeting to the public, maybe at their agricultural center or somewhere local that we can get everybody there and actually go through a slide presentation and try to inform the public and take public input as well. As for funds, like I said, the funds are coming privately. So, and they are in place, they're there, but we've got to get the project designed at this point.
You speaking of for your turn lanes and what have you, or you talking about? Okay.
Yeah, for all the infrastructure has to be put in for 78 and US 1, the funds are in place.
What do you mean by super exchange? I mean,
Super Street
Super
concept?
Street, yeah, I mean, as far as, just to parse, you think about roundabout, you know, these sort of new, we're going to look at one in a few minutes, how they work, and then this type of thing, is it in theory something that's supposed to?
Yeah, kind of wish Rob would have gone first on the other one because he works for DOT. He has a great presentation.
DOT, give you
Okay, but still, I mean, it would be nice to have a sense of, just briefly, how the dynamics of this work. Is there a little magic here that goes on, or a concept that allows traffic to flow freely?
Would you like? Well, Rob, yeah, let Rob, if he doesn't mind. We'll do it together. To answer your question, there is a concept behind it. There is a safety factor and there is a speed factor in terms of if once this is done, you can actually go through tramway quicker than you can now. In other words, if the northbound lane may stop, the southbound lane doesn't have to anymore if someone wants to turn left. But I'm going to let Rob do that. He's an expert.
I don't know about that, but I'll try to answer your question. I'm Rob Stone. I'm the Division Operations Engineer for NCDOT. I work out of the Aberdeen office and our division office. I'm not sure, I know you asked about the Super Street. I'm not sure who coined that name. I'd have to look back where that came from. But it is a little alternate, a little different design than what we're used to seeing. And the whole purpose of the design is to move traffic through. What we see usually on a typical intersection, when you have a typical cross intersection, you have 32 conflict points. You have an opportunity for a crash at 32 different places where we. And what the Super Street design does is remove the most typical, the most severe type movements where you see the most severe crashes is your angle type or either your left turn type when somebody's coming through the movement.
And does the red suggest that you can't go through there? Is that what that? Is that
what
like
the
a
red
barrier?
is actually is a either. Yes,
Okay.
so that is
Okay.
that would be concrete or either a grass median type. I'm not sure what concrete is.
Monolithic curb.
Okay.
And I don't know if you might be able to see it better in this particular.
Yes.
Okay, but what happens is where you would normally have a through movement or a left turn, what you do is you funnel all that into a right turn. And I think in this particular one, and I apologize, I have not been real prominent in all the discussions on this until just recently, but I think it'd be triple S on this one. Was that the?
No, they're dual.
Dual left. I mean, I'm sorry, dual right. I'm sorry, right turn, dual.
Dual rights and dual lefts.
Okay, dual rights up through.
It'll be 3 rights off 78 on the US 1.
So it is triple right.
It'll be triple rights on the US 1. It'll be dual lefts at the U-turn movement on US 1.
And this is James Garner. He is our assistant district engineer. His office is responsible for actually approving the driveway permit. But what you do is you actually move a right turn where any of your lefts or your through moves become a right turn, and they'll funnel up, and then you'll have a U-turn movement and go back into the so in this example, is going back into Center Church. What happens here? What does it allow? Is instead of having a large 8-phase signal, if you know what I'm talking about, 8 phases, where you have to stop traffic to allow each other traffic, so that's where you get your delay from in all these signalized intersections. You have a large 8-phase signal. What it allows you to do is you're able to do a 2-phase signal in one direction. And I know it's maybe a little harder to understand, but what it allows you to do is you're able to coordinate those signals at a lot less delay. Where an intersection that's an 8-phase signal, it would take, given the amount of green time and the amount of stop time and clearance time, you may have anywhere from 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes.
So where are the signals from?
You'd have a signal at existing intersection for your right turns and also your left turns to allow the lefts from US 1 into 78. So you are allowed to make a left from US 1 onto the side streets. That's where your leftover design. Another example is what we have if you're on US 1 headed south, going towards Southern Pines, Aberdeen. That new bypass, that's the exact same setup. When you come from side streets, you cannot make a through movement or a left out of the side street. You can make a left from US 1 into the center street. So you would have a signal for these two movements here. And then you'd also, you'll have a dual left, a dual U-turn, and there'll be a signal there to stop the traffic there to allow that movement.
And I'm sorry, just the U-turn factor is governed by a stop signal, so there's no chance
It is
of
a traffic
that
signal.
going wrong when
Right.
and the backup factor there, all of that. I mean, I have to know that y'all know how to regulate that so that tends to flow rather than back up,
Right.
unless it's a bad problem or
Just
something.
due to truck traffic, large, multi-tandem or multi-axle trucks on Highway 78, to and from Highway 78. That's a big concern I have, because there's a lot of truck traffic that goes up and
Sure.
down Tramway Road.
And the way the trucks, actually, when you do the U-turn movement, there is a bulb out on the other side. So
Yeah, I
when
see
they make
that, but is
turn-
that really enough for an 18-wheeler?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Yes, sir. And
Right.
this is something we've used in several places across the state, and again, I know it's fairly new in the area, but again, as a US one, this is a fine example of where we've done the same thing, it's been in place for several years now.
And how many lights, I see you removed the one directly at Tramway, or at Tramway Crossing there at 78 and Highway 1.
There would still be a signal here.
There would still be a signal there.
Is it just for a left-hand turn, but
Yes, sir.
nothing to go across?
Right.
Right, and then, so you've added signals, it looks like you add 2 more signals on there as well.
Yes, sir.
So you're actually gonna end up with 3 traffic signals in the Tramway Crossing area instead of 1.
Absolutely. And the difference is, again, as I mentioned before, instead of one large 8-phase signal, where you're looking at 2.5 minutes sitting there with green time waiting for through, you're only looking at maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds to get through it. And the difference is too, it's so much easier. All you're looking at in one direction is you're coordinating. You don't have to coordinate all the directions of the signals. You can coordinate one direction as it comes through. It's a lot easier to do with a 2-phase signal where you're only stopping the traffic in one direction to make that turn.
Are you responsible for the one in Linden Oaks?
No, sir, actually, that's another division.
Is it?
But
Somebody needs to learn about coordination down there.
Well,
Those things
that-
are about as uncoordinated as you could get.
Unfortunately, I think they're still trying to work out all the construction, finish that, and until you get the final pattern and all the loops that control the traffic, once all that traffic's done in the final layer. James actually took a video of that recently, and he's got that if anybody's interested. He drove in two directions during the peak hour. I haven't watched it yet, but if that's something y'all would be interested in looking at, he's got that available. We could show it on the computer.
Firsthand, blow by blow.
Yeah,
The other thing I was concerned about, what's the duration from start to finish? When you start implementing this, what is till you're completely done establishing your traffic pattern, what is the total duration of construction time? Are you gonna get it done in 6 months or a year?
I would have to talk more. I think this is actually being done in 2 phases also.
There's 2 phases of this. The majority of it's in phase 1, with all the infrastructure being put in day 1. And we're hoping to start construction as soon as by the end of this year, December, running into January, and by spring, this will be online.
What kind of input did you get from Walgreens and Citgo? Because if somebody's coming down 78 toward Walgreens, and they gotta make a right-hand turn, go up here and make another left-hand turn to get back in, that seems like a lot of waste of time. And
I can't speak as far as if they've talked to Walgreens.
We have not.
And what Mark mentioned,
That's what the public workshops are.
and that's to get all the input. But again, what
I mean, but before you start designing this thing, I would have thought you would have talked to them first, because it's gonna impact that whole shopping center there.
Well, actually, it should make it a little better.
It's actually going to throw all the traffic into the shopping center.
And it should actually decrease the congestion in the area and actually make it a little less congestion and delay in the area. What Mark mentioned is when they approach, when a developer comes in with this type of project, what has to happen is they have to show DOT how to accommodate the traffic that they are going to, what the traffic they're going to produce. And so, like Mark said, he mentioned he went to Davenport Engineer, and that's an independent consultant, and their job is to go through this, and this is what they do, and look at the traffic they predict, and then the best way to handle it and mitigate it. And of course, DOT reviews it, but that's what we have to do as far as seeing how the developer can handle the traffic that he's producing.
Okay, so if they come out of Tramway Road there by Walgreens, they can't go straight across. They gotta go up here and make a complete U-turn and come back down around to get into town.
Yes, sir. And that will actually be faster than waiting here to go to another signal to do the U-turn at however you.
They gotta wait for a signal down here.
But it's not going to be near as long. You're only looking at 10 to 15 seconds of stop as opposed to the 8-phase.
Why do we, rather than just tweak something that may help, why do we go to all of this cost of new construction?
Well, unfortunately, with this amount of traffic, there's not a tweak that'll work. This is putting as much traffic on the road as almost is there now. It's almost doubling the amount of traffic. if it would just be tweaked, trust me, the developer would have proposed it. And
I would love to just tweak
When you're talking about handling this much traffic, there's not an easy fix. It's
I
really
think
not.
the biggest concern is gonna be the school traffic. If you go out there at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock, you're in school, and I live out that way, and I come up Center Church Road, and I've been backed up all the way down past the intersection at the school. And, all they have is a gentleman out there flagging traffic at the school. And I've seen it backed up all the way to the US number 1, and I'm just afraid that, all these children being transported, and I'm gonna tell you, 50 to 75% of the parents transported.
Sure.
So you got all these vehicles.
You
not
you actually
school
got
buses.
3 schools down there. 'Cause you got Grace Christian on one side, you got Tramway, and then you got Lee Christian, and now you guys are messing around with Highway 1, planning to do some other modifications. It's gonna throw more traffic down to that area, trying to double back to get to Lee Christian. So, I mean, we're talking about, like the perfect storm of traffic down there.
Well, one thing, I want, make sure you understand completely, that our mission at DOT is safety is the very first part. We're not going to do anything that we think is going to decrease the safety. Everything we're proposing is increased safety. And we have, there's other places we've done this, there's plenty of models that show it, and it's been used in other places, and it works fantastic. Again, it is a little adjustment, and there's some headache while it's being built, but at the end, it does reduce the traffic and delay, and it does reduce accidents.
And to touch on what you're saying, is currently the way it is right now, with nothing being developed on that site, it does back up. There is a wait time. As Rob was saying, our development is going to double the traffic in years to come on that road. So imagine if we stay traditionally and have an 8-phase signal there, and now we're going to double the traffic on top of that, and it's going to have to sit there and wait. It would even back up even further. So
Well, then maybe we've got another issue here that goes well beyond the tramway crossing. And that other issue is how do we do traffic calming in the tramway area, given all the other things that are happening? I mean,
that
we're
is the other issue
creating.
that came up in our discussions. is
Yeah.
If we did not do this concept and we allowed it to go traditionally, everybody's well aware that traffic today is already backing up. When it's red, traffic backs up in front of the Food Line entrance almost.
Yeah.
When it's red, traffic's almost backing up to Bryant Drive currently now, as it is now. So all that being said is, if we go traditionally and it's going to even double and back it up even more, eventually what's gonna happen is tramway's gonna get bypassed.
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest.
And
We're
we
just
don't
looking at
know
the southern
that.
bypass or the
Yeah.
southeastern or southwestern bypass around Sanford. I mean, we ought to be taking a serious look. I know that was in the Tarpo study at one point to do a southeastern bypass off one of those existing 2-lane roads, and it would seem to me to make sense to dive into that quickly, because we're about to create a perfect traffic jam down
Just so
there.
everybody doesn't know, which they may, is from the highway patrol station, north to Apex and Cary, that is limited access. In other words, you cannot tie into US 1.
Right.
The highway patrol station just past Quail Ridge, you can. That is the only stretch between Cary and Southern Pines that you can actually tie into
Right.
US 1. So eventually, if stuff like this was not done, it would be bypassed. Now, the question is where those funds come from, and how does that happen, and how long does it take to acquire the right of way? You know, how long it's taking with the 421 bypass, probably won't be in my lifetime. So we have to look at today's current environment, and that's what we're trying to focus on.
I live out here and I travel 78 almost every day, turn left to go down Chris Cole Road to get to my home. So what I'm gonna have to do now is come 78 and at Highway 1, turn right, make that U-turn and then come all the way down.
Correct.
Go through 3 lights.
Well, will not the lights be timed, Rob?
Oh, yeah,
The
absolutely.
lights will be timed to where you're not going for 3 lights and sitting in 3 lights. The lights will be timed to once you go through the first, you should be able to go through the second and third at the same time.
That's the thing that's a little hard to understand, a traditional signal, is you're not having to stop in both directions of traffic for this, because all you're doing is you're having, when this U-turn's being made, you're not stopping the northbound traffic.
I
The
think
northbound
what-
traffic's continuing, and then eventually, when that southbound, this light will trigger the southbound traffic will be stopped, and it'll come through, and then you should be able to make the next one.
Well, used to, you had access roads on either side that you could channel traffic down. What happened to that concept?
I'm not sure, I must have been.
You ought to go out to Texas.
We actually have that, just a little further up Highway 1.
There's
There
two
are some
service-
access
there's two
roads
service on
further
both
up.
sides of it, and we're having problems now with where they cross over. There's some issues at those locations now that they can't get back into.
Well, yeah, but usually you cross over on a bridge or something.
Well, and
It
that's,
doesn't slow the traffic down, but it also doesn't cause the accident.
And that's exactly right. The next step, like Mark mentioned, is, I mean, you're talking about an interchange, a grade separation tank, and you're looking at $20 to $100 million project there just for that particular thing, not counting any of it. And an interchange at this location removed pretty much all the development just because of the footprint of an interchange. This huge amount of right of way it needs to do it.
Well,
You know,
I've seen it, they've had no problem with development.
And I guess the other question that comes up, and maybe this is more for Mr. Bridwell, is, you know, as much as we want to promote and encourage growth and development in the county, there are some areas where it's just the traffic patterns are just not conducive to that kind of quick fix. And that's what this really is a quick fix, you know, to try to do some safety-related quick fix, but you're creating, I can promise you right now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, you're going to create a major traffic nightmare in that area by denying access straight across Highway 78, across Highway 1, and vice versa. I mean, you're going to create a major traffic congestion problem. You already admitted you're going to increase by maybe double the amount of traffic going in there to shop, and now you're going to complicate people getting to and from schools, people commuting to and from golf courses down in Southern Pines. I mean, it's going to create a nightmare for everybody. And eventually, we're going to have to solve it by doing the right thing, which is building an intersection or an interchange or a bypass. Yeah.
I don't think the bypass is even on the list right now.
Question I have here is emergency services. Parts of this area are covered by county, parts of it are covered by city. So how do you overcome those obstacles? Who responds? Because the Tramway Fire Department is kept very busy with accidents up and down here, the horrific accidents. And so when do they know to respond? When does the city respond? How do you know where the 911 call gets and how much delays are going to be? Is it going to be any trouble for the Tramway Fire Department to get out to the other side quickly to respond to a call?
You're exactly right. And there's no quick answer to that, although everybody is aware of that issue. We thought there was going to be some easy ways to say the city is going to assume everything inside the city limits. And then we got into some issues that the legislature is actually restricting us from going into areas or annexing areas that are in a highway. So we're having to back off of that now. And the best thing we think is going to happen is to negotiate between those jurisdictions, and they decide among themselves how they're going to handle it, and probably come back to y'all. I think that's probably the most expeditious way to make sure, number one, that the public safety is secured. So that's the direction we're trying to move in right now, sure, rather than trying to make the formal approach, which doesn't seem to be working now because of complications with some of the enabling legislation.
I have a question. You know, I can see how this is going to come together at some point, that is economic development versus traffic control and the inconveniences of modern civilization as it's racing ahead. And I'm kind of wondering, just to put it in perspective, what kind of monetary, are there a few figures, anything you can tell us about the size and scope of this development? Are we looking to develop something on the order of $25 million worth with the developers and tax base? I'm just sort of, it will help me now or later to get an idea about the asset that we're talking about here, the value to the community, the shops, the business, the increased revenue, versus the problems that we might have in traffic control. And you know, I can
speak kind of outline it briefly. We don't have all our numbers in yet for costs, but overall, the overall development itself, including land costs, infrastructure, and so forth, is excess of over $10 million just to make this happen. And that's private money out of our pocket. Someone, if the city's not, I mean, nothing wrong with the city and the county, but the bottom line is the city and county's not putting $1 into it. And we are putting private money into this development, which is not only going to bring jobs to the area. I mean, I'm just taking one. It's not a secret. You know, we're negotiating with Bojangles right now I mean, that's going to employ people. We're negotiating with CDS right now. That's going to employ people. So those are two realities that we'd like to try to make happen by the end of this year. Both of them are anxious to go on two, that's just 2 out parcels out of 9. That's 2 major employees.
Where are you gonna put the target?
Well, we actually have approached Target, and I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people, I'm gonna dispel that rumor now too. There is no Target, but however, we've approached some of these nicer chains like Target, the Home Depots, and I'll give you another example, Olive Garden. The feedback that I keep getting from these places are, and this is where Sanford being centrally located actually plays against you, is we are centrally located to everywhere else there is everything else. In other words, they look at it demographically, and all these places like the Targets and the Olive Garden, why put one in Sanford when you'll drive 25 minutes to Southern Pines and go to that?
How about Harris Teeter?
That's what he wants. There is some talk about the Harris. But in regards to the Olive Garden, why drive 25 minutes when you can go there and so forth and so on? I will say this, this is another prime example of Sanford doesn't, before now, it really didn't have great commercial opportunity tracks. In other words, where would you ride around town and find that this is a great hot spot? We always knew Tramway was it. Well, now is an opportunity. Bobby has come in and took his own private money and bought this property. He's trying to develop it not only for himself, but for the community, but for the county and for the city and for revenue for both. So I guess what I'm going with is, if we'd have had this track out there marketing it 15 years ago or 10 years ago before Olive Garden went in Southern Pines, we may have an Olive Garden sitting here in Sanford today. So we need to allow these type of developments. We need to encourage more of this in prime locations if we ever want to have some of those establishments. We all drive out of town to go shop and eat at.
If I could put a kind of a cap on I know this discussion can go on quite a lengthy time, but I think Mr. Womack made a correct statement a while ago. This is basically a stopgap measure. Now, that may sound like a bad thing, but in terms of commercial development and highway development, your commercial development always precedes your major thoroughfare improvements. There's always a lead time that goes in that an action like this will precipitate more actions, and eventually a much bigger solution has to take place. To some degree, that's already taken place, because the Lee County Transportation Plan, the thoroughfare plan, has a major radial loop crossing at Pendergrass and looping over and tying into 78. That's really is designed to do some of the things that you all are concerned about, is to carry that around. Now, when is that going to happen? That won't happen for a long time, because highway improvements are so incredibly expensive, and Rob can emphasize that it takes a long lead time to get some of these very expensive long-range projects in. You know, the way the thoroughfare plan is written right now, and I think it's valid, is that we want all of US 1, Charlie, to be an expressway.
Yeah.
And we're hearing from our neighbors that they don't want that anymore.
Yeah, more county.
We want to carry, like you're having, the trouble you're having on 87,
Right.
we want to eliminate that.
Right.
And create vast amounts of traffic moving very safely. And so that's what we're trying to lead to. So there's conflicts that come into place between wanting to grow. We want commercial projects like this, and we think we have a very good quality project, and letting it happen, and being able to accommodate a design so that we don't have a worse problem while we're waiting for the bigger solution to fall into place. And I hope I'm saying that correctly, but that's what we're trying to do.
And we, you know, I for one would like to see all of this go in. I guess the concern I have is for the existing properties that are already there, is that we not hurt that.
And I think that...
And the existing roads where people have to go from point A to point B to get to work, they're not having to jump through hoops to get there. Now, that's a concern I have.
And I think DOT, and I know DOT, they're very responsive to those kinds of issues. And as this moves through the discussion process, wherever they can accommodate, because they always have, they've always tried to accommodate as much as possible the businesses and the people that are moving through that area. So they're not going to be unconscious of those concerns. Now, will they ultimately satisfy everybody? Absolutely not. It just won't happen. But I know that they'll try. Our role as planners is to kind of facilitate that process and move it before the people who need to hear it, including you all, City Council, and the public, so that all that input can take place and you all get what you eventually want to have, and that's to serve the best interest of everybody.
Okay, we need to move on to stay on schedule, but is this the reality that there will be a public hearing where
It's
all?
informational meeting. A hearing means that it actually is a decision that is made. So this is actually an informational meeting, just to give them the information of.
And if they have questions, if John Pugh public has questions, how do they get those answered?
We will address those questions at that time. If we don't have the answer, then we'll get the answer and contact them personally and talk about it.
Just a quick question. You gave a timetable of when you wanted to have this done?
Well, we're in the process now of doing the construction drawings, which will take the next 60 days, and then we have to submit them to DOT for approval, reality-wise by next spring, if possible. This actually is not a long period of construction, is it not, Rob? I mean, most of that infrastructure could probably be put in 90 to 120 days.
All right, so, this wouldn't affect US Open traffic, or
Well,
do
they
you,
won't-
or do you want this to affect US Open traffic?
That's holy ground.
Let me clarify something here. You said this is an informational public meeting only, so does that mean the decision's already been made, Rob?
Yes and no. This is the best thing we've seen to accommodate existing traffic. There will always be a chance for input from the public, and that'll be considered in it. But right now, this is the best decision that's been made to be able to handle it.
Okay, but it's not made yet.
No. Again, there's been no approval made, and there's been no official, other than official request to review it.
I guess my concern is that you do get input from our public safety professionals, our law enforcement, our fire, our first responders, because that's our first responsibility to the public, is public
Yes, ma'am.
safety. So they need to have input on this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Ms., just to, what we've seen in the other locations where we install this, what happens is that you were mentioning the horrific accidents that occur along this corridor. Those decrease when we do this particular fix. Those decrease instead. I know against the change, but it's usually better for the emergency responders because they don't have to wait in the congestion. The congestion is not as bad, and the crashes are not near as or severe as what you see.
Which is a segue to the next presentation. Again, we had concern, there's significant safety issues on Hawkins Avenue. Councilman Fair approached DOT some time ago with those concerns. And as a part of our long-range planning process, we also had some issues as well. DOT began their study and looking at ways we could approach that particular area. And when we're talking about Hawkins Avenue, we're talking about significant amounts of traffic, residential, industrial, business traffic moving in and around US 1, and how we could do that and enhance the safety aspects of that. DOT began that study and have recently concluded it, and this is their plan. So I'll let you go there, Bob. And everybody, Rob Stone has been incredibly helpful with all these studies, and we're very grateful for him and for James, who sits on our technical review panel as well. We have a very strong and productive working relationship with these guys, and we're very pleased with that.
I guess I need to apologize for overloading the traffic things right off the bat, back to back, but as Bob mentioned, we had a request to look at US 1 at Hawkins Avenue. You're familiar with the area. This is US 1. This will be headed north toward Raleigh. This is Hawkins Avenue. We've got Amos Bridge Road, and we had, at the same time, we had a request from the town to look at, from the city to look at this intersection, at this area. We had a request in Amos Bridge Road to look at signalizing Amos Bridge. This is Beech Tree Drive, and then this is Cotton Road. This is where the Chopping Marine previously stood. If you'll notice the numbers that we have here, this on Hawkins Avenue is 8,700. That is the average annual daily traffic. On an average day, this is what you can expect in both directions on this location, is approximately 8,700. On the other side of US 1, it's about 14,000. So you can see that there's definitely an increase from the vehicle of US 1. This end of US 1 is about 17,000. What's interesting is on further down around Spring Lane area, we're looking at about 24,000 cars a day in that area. Amos Bridge Road is looking at about 3,500 cars per day. Beech Tree is 1,300, and Cotton Road is approximately 1,400. And when we look in the area, of course, like I said, we had a traffic signal request at Amos Bridge. It did not have the adequate traffic volumes to warrant a signal at this location. And besides, when we look at this, if this is warning signal, more than likely this would be a signal, this would be a signal, and this is getting closer, then you start looking at the same issue we had a lot of signals on top of each other, and that's not always the best thing. So we by the request of the city, we took a look at the whole area. One of the things we did is, again, look at the traffic volumes, and the next thing we did was look at our crash patterns. Our traffic engineering branch out of Raleigh, this is where they can query the state database and look at all the reported crashes in the area. This is the first intersection. This is Amos Bridge Road, and this is Hawkins Avenue, and this is the Exxon across the road. If you notice, the 5-year period beginning May 1st in 2006, in this area we had 17 total crashes. Again, when we start looking at our crashes, and the traffic engineering branch puts them in this format for us called a crash diagram. It really shows you the pattern. You can see crash patterns, and it makes it very obvious. The ones we look for the most severe are left turn type. Again, that's when you've got someone taking a left and you get a T-bone type accident, or your angle type. And that's the ones where you have the most injuries or fatalities when you're having those. So that's what we're really looking at. In this area, we had, as you can see, the pattern here, we had 6 left turn type and 3 angle type in this area, and then you got a couple of rear ends, but you can see there's a distinct pattern in this area. The next intersection down, this is the US 1 northbound on-ramp and the off-ramp. This is Charleston Drive opposite. At the same time period here, we had a total of 23 total crashes with 7 left turn type and 7 angle type crashes. And again, you can see there's a pattern here for vehicles trying to make it through movement of the left turn and getting in a crash in this intersection. Here we had just a few 3 rear end type accidents at the yield. The next intersection down was the US 1 southbound off ramp, and then this is the on ramp. At this intersection, again, we had the same time period, but we had 17 total crashes, with 8 of those being left turn and 5 angle type. This one mark here shows that this was a significant pattern, 5 accidents of this type in the same thing. So you're seeing we're looking at, we're recognizing that there is a crash pattern here that we're going to address. And then this is the Beech Tree Drive, which will be up toward the Chopper Marine. And this one we had 8 total crashes, and there was 2 left turn type, but they actually happened across down at the convenience store, the Kangaroo down the bottom. There was one turning in and one turning out. And at the intersection itself, all we saw was rear ends from vehicles looking to make a left and getting rear ended. As you know, this is a through left lane here. It's about the time you start looking at increasing your speed coming out of the area, and I think we're getting surprised by the left turns in this area. So this is the crash patterns we were looking at. And I think you had this in your handout. This is the concept that we have came up with to try to address it. And I'll go in each one of them, but the main portion of it is install roundabouts at the off-ramps, or at the ramps here, and do some, of course, what you see here, most of this would be a concrete type island. The first intersection here, this is the off-ramp, this is Amos Bridge Road, and you've got Charleston Drive. Installing a roundabout here at this location, and what we would do is extend the island a little further into Amos Bridge, so it would prevent the left turn out of Amos Bridge. What the Amos Bridge traffic would have to do is come around the roundabout, and continue back into town. The left into Amos Bridge will still be allowed. The through movement from the Exxon will still be allowed. But that is our main traffic concern there with that pattern, and that would help address that pattern. The roundabout, when you come up to the roundabout, if you want to make a left, you'll just get into it, make the left turn, or you go through. The right turn would have its own dedicated lane, similar to what it has now, where you would not have to stop. So they would just come through and make the right turn and head back west on 15501. And that would address the issues we're having here at this intersection. The next one at the off-ramp, as you approach from, remember I did say I had a free flow right turn, would have to end up merging into the one lane. You bring one lane into the roundabout from this direction. Your southbound off-ramp would come into the roundabout, and then for your own ramp, you'd also have a through movement. It's pretty close to what it is now. You just continue on, not to go through the roundabout to get through. And this also, what we're going to try to do with Beech Tree, what we're looking at doing is when you come out of this lane here, this would be a single through lane instead of dual throughs. And what we would do is develop a left turn lane into Beech Tree, and then you would pick up the dual through lanes past the intersection. So that would address the problem we're having with people in through movement being surprised by a left turn in this direction. So that's kind of the improvements we're looking at in the area. Talk about a little bit, the best way to talk about what a roundabout is to talk about what a roundabout is not. This is interesting in cartoon. So according to the map, there should be a traffic circle coming up. And one thing a roundabout is not is a traffic circle. One of the most famous traffic circles in the area is the Pinehurst traffic circle. And the difference between a roundabout and a traffic circle is mainly the size. When you're looking at a roundabout, you're looking at 150 to 200 foot diameter. This is somewhere in the area of about 1,600 feet. The difference with this, and again, this works fine. We have lower volume of traffic, but we're seeing we have a lot of rear-end accidents at these locations, and partly because at this large diameter, the driver's able to get speeds up inside the circle. You know, they're moving pretty good in here, 35, 40 mile an hour, 45. We've seen them faster than that, but it makes it a little hard on the judgment for the person trying to merge into to figure out what the vehicle's doing at that speed. So this is not a roundabout. Another example is the Pittsboro roundabout, traffic circle. And this size is a lot more manageable than the Pinehurst, but what makes this definitely not a roundabout is the historic courthouse in the center. One thing you do not want to do is encourage any type of pedestrian traffic through the circle. The roundabout, we'll talk about in just a second, but that's the main feature on this one that prevents it from being a well-functioning roundabout. Here's a good example. I think this one from out west. This is an example of a location that was taking an existing traffic circle and converting it into a roundabout. And this just shows you a concept of the difference in the size we're talking about between a roundabout and talking about why roundabouts, and right now the state, we have put in, I think it's well over 200 that we have across the state that the state has built. That's not counting the ones that are in privately owned developments and privately owned housing developments, but it's one of the safest intersection design, and several studies will tell you it is the safest intersection design. High capacity, which means it can carry a lot of vehicles and low delay. It's good for all modes of traffic. It gives you a lot more design flexibility than a standard intersection, and it gives you the chance to do some aesthetics inside the roundabout. This particular one I'll talk about in just a second, but this is the one at NC State, and this is Pullen Drive as you approach Hillsborough Street's on past here, but this is into the main entrance. And this one is our one in Moore County at the airport. When the airport had a realignment and we realigned the road, that's the roundabout there. And this is interesting one just to touch base. We had an existing signal there, and this is at the O'Neill School and also Sand Hills College down this side. And it was nothing in the morning during peak hour at this signal to see cars back up 2 or 3 miles. This intersection just had so much traffic for such a little, it was 2 lanes in both directions. Since we have put this roundabout in, we have not seen any type of delay like that. It's never more than 10 cars at the most sitting in it in the morning, and they flow. It's not just sitting there. So we have seen a major improvement, and both the college and the local school have just commented on how pleased they were with the
Now,
outcome.
what at Cameron University, is that the size you're talking about?
At
To Campbell University.
That one's actually a little tighter than most of the ones we're talking about, but that is a roundabout. But that is actually a smaller one than what we normally see. I think it's about 100 foot now. Yes, sir.
The state of the art of roundabouts here are, you still have to use care, and you have to check what's happening around you as you go around and people entering that circle. Aren't there some that have dual lanes in them so that you never have that to worry about?
Well, you still have that to worry about there. We do have a few in the state that have dual lanes, and it's just be the same example as they come up to an intersection and have dual lefts. Depending on the movement that you need dual, where the traffic volumes dictate that it needs that many lanes to take care of it, you would make that movement. So we have them where you could have dual through movements, but you still, someone coming in from another approach still has to merge. And talking on, it's probably a good spot. I know you've heard about the one at Hillsborough Street is actually up a little further than this.
Right.
And they had issues on that one where a partial piece of that roundabout had dual lanes. And it seems that the driver expectation was not on that. And we had an issue where when the driver came up, they did not think if you were going the outside lane, they had to yield because the inside lane. And we had a problem with that driver expectation. It wasn't the whole 2 lane all the way around, it was just that one approach. And they just recently went in to address an issue with that and made that 1 lane. And Kelly Becker is with our traffic engineering group, and she has been instrumental in working on that one. But I think that has addressed most of the problems so far, what we've seen in that one.
Essentially, with the roundabouts there, though, from what I've seen, you still have a problem with semi-trucks going through there. There's a lot of trucks out there in Hawkins.
Actually, there's not a perception, and I'll talk about that in just a minute.
Why do they take both lanes?
When I mentioned the safety, this was a study done in the United States back in 2007, and I don't think they've updated it yet, but this is crash reductions following roundabout installation. So they went into an intersection, and they knew what the crash statistics were before. They did the roundabout, and after a time period, they went back and checked back again. Reduction in total crashes, which means everything, was 48%, which is significant when you're talking about reductions. Fatal injury crashes in rural areas, that was a 78% reduction nationwide. So, I mean, that's some major numbers we're talking about. And this is, again, the severe, you take out that severe left turn type crash pattern. And then fatal injury crashes in urban areas, we saw a 60% decrease in crashes. In North Carolina, in DOT did a study, our traffic engineering branch, back in 2006, where we did conversion from stop sign control. So it was an existing intersection, we had stop sign control. We put in a roundabout, and we saw a reduction of 41% in crashes. So, I mean, this is not small amounts. This is a large amount of decrease of crashes we've seen. And then it was interesting, conversion from signal control, where we had some intersections where we had signals, and we converted them to roundabouts, and we saw a decrease of 74% in the crashes. So we have seen that they're very effective in reducing crashes.
Bob, can I stop you?
You bet, yes, ma'am.
Backtrack to one of your schematics. Where is Pfizer located on this one roundabout plan?
Pfizer is actually further down this, down west.
Okay, so ingress and egress to their plant would not be affected
Not at
by
all.
this?
And no, answer your question.
Okay.
We talked about the capacity a little bit, peak hour traffic. Roundabouts, what we usually see, they're usually at least as efficient. You have same overall delay to drivers as traffic signals are always stopped. But what we've seen, when you say usually, that there's a significant decrease even in the peak hour traffic delay. And where you see the major impact is off-peak traffic, when there's non-peak times where you're not in your main peak hour traffic. They're a lot more efficient. When you approach, you do not have to stop. You don't have to wait for a signal to turn green and let you go. You just go through this, and that's where we see a lot of the congestion downturn. Multimodal is safer for all modes of traffic. It's safer for pedestrians, bicycles, and buses. The difference with a pedestrian is, and you can barely see them here in the corner, is they only have to worry about one approach of traffic at a time. As this person's trying to cross this, all he has to worry about is this traffic here. Once he gets to this island, all he has to worry about is this one line of traffic. So it's a lot safer for pedestrians. They don't have to worry about turning traffic or from both directions or anything. So we see this as a big benefit for pedestrians. And the same with bicycles. Roundabouts have a natural traffic calming effect. You're not going to hit this at 45, 55 mile an hour like you could a signal and still go through the green. You have to, it tells you something's going on in your comm, so your traffic pattern's slow. And also for buses, it gives you, as you come out either side of it, it gives you a natural place for a bus stop. So yeah, we've seen that improve. I mentioned design flexibility. This is an intersect. This is a fairly recent roundabout at NC 87 at Camp Drive and Old Graham Road in Pittsburgh. This was part, we mentioned again, a driveway permitting process. The college installed their new library, and this was their access to this. This before, I don't know if you're familiar, 87 went through. This is an interest in social services on this side, and then this drive had a really strong, hard break back to get back into it. What you're able to do with the roundabout is actually, this is a little bit of several roundabouts around the oval, I guess. We were able to stretch it out a little bit, and it provides a good access point for all these driveways, and they're functioning well. And I'll mention trucks again. As you see, these trucks, this is a high area for trucks in this area, both for the wood trucks and others, and they can be manipulated very easily. And I'll talk about it in just a
One of the
second.
problems that I saw with this one though is the signage. It's where do you turn? And it's not really clear where you are supposed to turn on it. You got somebody with you that knows where to turn. And
Once you get on the circle to,
Yeah.
that could be most of the time we try to have signing as you approach each approach and see if there's a big.
They'll tell you to take second left or third right or whatever, you
Yeah,
know.
but it's not there.
Well, as you approach it, it should tell you the street names and or if it's a route marker, it would be there for you. And again, you're not approaching it at this speed. You'll be running 10, 15 mile an hour, even inside the circle at that much. Here's an example of an interchange, and I'll go through these a little quicker. This is at US 420 Williams Street in Louisville, Forsyth County. This is an one that it was signals at this, actually traffic signals at these locations. You can't see on this side, but there's commercial development on both sides. It really started developing heavily on both ends of this. Of course, when you have an interstate or a major U.S. route and a lot of traffic, this becomes a prime piece of commercial property. What we were having happen is the signals here could not handle the traffic here. We were starting to back traffic down into the main thoroughfare, which is the worst case scenario, when you have through traffic approaching a stopped vehicle at this type of speed. And there was no, as you can see, the overpass itself is on 2 lanes. So we were limited by how much traffic we could pump through this, just because of the 2-lane traffic here. That's only, the 2-lane traffic only carries so much. And without a anywhere from $20 to $100 million improvement to add extra lanes, this roundabout now, they work perfectly. They have no congestion on these issues. We don't have any of the issues we have backing up. The crash patterns have reduced significantly, and the commercial businesses are a lot happier because they don't have the traffic backing up in front of them. Similar here at I-26, NC-108 in Columbus and Polk County, very similar. Commercial on both sides, 2-lane. This was converted to 2 roundabouts, and had nothing but success with this one, and it's been a very successful project. So. One more example we had, this is I guess our most recent. This is in Randall, in West Academy Street at High Point Street, and this is in Randolph County, which is one of the counties we cover. Had a school here, which is Randall Middle School, and also Randall High School here. And there's a ring road that joins to the main road. This is High Point Road. This is West Academy Street, and this is the main way to get to US 220, I-7374. And then this is a Walmart. So this is a Walmart with the usual outlots and outlots on the other side. We came in, there was a problem with the school, as you can imagine, congestion. This area is growing up. And this main intersection here, and it was nothing for the traffic. This was a signalized intersection backing through both of these in the mornings and afternoons, and also here at this intersection. We came through and constructed the school roundabout first, and we had we had a public hearing with this one, and also met with the schools and met with the bus drivers and addressed any issues they had with approaching these. And then the Walmart was next, and what was interesting, while we were constructing these, this work was going on, the actual road was here, so we moved the road over so we could construct it without disrupting traffic as little as possible, so we actually did it in stages. But when this was still, these two were finished and this was still a traffic signal, we could not funnel the traffic through the traffic signal as fast as there was no delay at the roundabouts, and everything was backing up for the traffic signal. So when we got this has worked, it has worked very well for that was involved. Mentioned aesthetics. It gives you an opportunity, this is just an example in the resort area, it gives you an opportunity to dress up the area the roundabout. This was one at Near College during the NCAAs, as you can see the little concept there. But what we usually hear common concerns, anytime we're recommending a roundabout type function, a roundabout type solution for you, there's always resistance from the public, again, because it's changed. Why can't we just put a signal here? And some of the usual concerns are driver expectation, how do you know what to do when you get there? And Mr. Parker, you mentioned that. And large trucks, your other one you mentioned. Cost of maintenance is a concern, and also the other one is emergency vehicle access. Driver expectations, I put this in here as kind of a joke. This is a treatment. This is a 2-lane roundabout where the outside ring goes one way and the inside ring goes another way. But what we're proposing is nothing quite this complicated. Once you've gone through it one time, it's usually pretty clear what you need to do. All you have to do is worry about that one lane of traffic coming to you. Usually the roundabout's constructed so you can see all legs of the roundabout, so you can see everything. That's part of the safety feature of it. We mentioned large trucks. One of the things at this particular location, when it was under construction, we noticed some large trucks were coming in and they were running up on the curb on the outside trying to avoid the middle. And when we talked with them, they didn't realize we asked them why they were trying to stay off this sidewalk. This is not a sidewalk. This is a truck apron. It is made specifically for trucks to drive the rear tires up, and it's reinforced concrete, so we don't have to. Sometimes you have asphalt and get trucks dragging asphalt
on the sidewalk too.
Yeah, see, that's part of it. See, again, we don't want to encourage anybody to try to cross the roundabout through the center, but once they realize that is for the drivers, there was no other problems with it. It's just a matter of learning the process. This is a heavy truck route, and they're having no problems maneuvering through it. Cost of maintenance, usual roundabout anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 initial upfront construction costs. Usually minimal maintenance after that. Either in landscaping or mowing, the state can mow it at their usual interims, or either we can go into a contract with landscaping and mowing with the entity that has to be in the city. Signalized intersection, if you construct, you're looking anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000 for that. If you need turn lanes, again, you're looking at another $100,000 to $200,000 to construct turn lanes if you have to have them. So you're getting into the same, even with a signalized intersection, you're still in the same construction costs, fairly close to the same construction costs. The difference is signal maintenance. You're looking anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 annually just to keep up the equipment and to pay the power bill for that. So that's where you start to see a bigger benefit as far as the cost. Here's an example of an emergency vehicle. What we see is emergency vehicles have no problem moving these. And also, if you've been to a congested intersection such as NC 78, US 1, when you have an intersection to stop and all the traffic is backed up, it's difficult for an emergency vehicle to get through that. And I've seen them go through and deadhead in the wrong direction, which is not safe either for emergency vehicles. But one of the other improvements we see is they do not have to respond to this area as much because of the crash reduction. The accidents are lower. We usually have a lot lower rate of accident crashes, so it's lower. As far as this process, our next steps, we're going to finish updating our data to make sure we've got the most current traffic counts and accident crash history to make sure we're addressing our problems. We'll do the same thing Mark mentioned. We're going to hold a public information workshop, talk about it, look at any input. And then we'll be finalizing design from there. And once we have design finalized, we'll develop cost estimate. And this will be safety funds that will be requested through our high hazard elimination funding, which is a federal program. So once we request funds, that'll be kind of the unknown. We can kind of guess how long everything else takes, how long it takes to get the funds. We don't have many in our area for these high hazard projects, so we think we'll have a good shot at getting these funds pretty quickly. So, and then we'll hire a contractor and construct the project. That's all I had to get. I kind of went through it kind of fast. But
you mentioned the emergency vehicles going through. If you're in the roundabout, there's no place to go.
What you do is get out as
fast as you can.
You just go through and continue. And
so has that been changed in the law, or
as far as
because you're supposed to move immediately over out of the way
as soon as feasible is the way the law reads, and that's the whole point is to get out of the roundabout, and once you out, you can pull to the right and get out of the way.
The other thing is that we talk about the great expense of all of these type construction things, and we relate it back to crashes and things like that. I guess the thought that I had while we were talking about that is there ever been done a study about we maybe need to send drivers back through driver's education?
We talk about that every day.
So what are drivers behind? We haven't done anything about it.
Actually, there's a couple of our groups that get together with driver educators. In fact, in a previous job, I would meet with the driver educators. They have an annual conference like some of the other groups, and we would get back and present things.
We might also need to look at renewal of driver's license for people who can't see or hear. So.
I agree.
You don't give a ticket to anybody if they don't know which one to get off and they go around a couple times, right?
I don't think that's against the law.
That's me. All right. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We've done a lot of things. I'm wondering if some of these outside people, we should try to move around and let our county people. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Your discretion.
What do the rest of you think? We've got,
I want to go to new business A and
I would like
B.
to, Victoria's been here a long time. Does the board have any problem with me moving that one out?
Nope.
We're gonna just very quickly jump to new business, section A, Sand Hill Center. Victoria?
Thank you. Good evening, or good afternoon. I've lost track of what time it is. It is my pleasure to come before you again tonight. I'm here to present for your review and consideration the joint resolution that would allow Guilford County to merge into Sand Hill Center. As you know, over the past year, our two boards, Guilford Center Board and the Sand Hill Center Board, have been in discussions. And what happened in July was that our two boards did finally reach an agreement and voted to move forward with the merger. To remind you, and what you should have in front of you, the resolution that we're presenting, plus another sheet that I gave to you regarding the benefits of the merger. To refresh your memory, over the past couple of years or several years, as far as that goes, North Carolina has been attempting to reach economies of scale through the continued consolidation of LMEs, local management entities. When I always like to say, when I started 33 years ago, there were 41 LMEs. Previously, there were 23, and now we're down to 11. This is the state's attempt to achieve economies of scale, as I said, and also to bring the control and management of the Medicaid dollars for behavioral health back to the local level. Sand Hill Center is one of the 11 that will be moving forward as the result of the state identifying the 11 that would be moving forward. There were LMEs that were encouraged to seek merger partners. About a year ago, as you remember, Guilford Center did approach us. Even though Guilford Center is a large county, it did not meet all the specifications to move forward alone. So we were approached a year ago about a merger. What that merger would mean is that Guilford Center as an LME would cease to exist, and Guilford County would become the 9th county of the Sand Hill Center catchment area. Over the course of the past year, our boards have once again negotiated an agreement that we are now working on between Guilford County and Sand Hill Center. And what you have before you tonight, as required by general statute, is that whenever mergers occur, each county within the catchment area has to approve a resolution. As I've said, this is the continuing attempt by the state to consolidate the functions of LMEs. We see this as a good move. Our board has been very supportive of this, and what you have on this sheet are the benefits. And quite frankly, the benefit for Sand Hill Center is in size. It does allow us, our population, to grow. It does allow the Medicaid recipients that we have within our catchment area to increase, and that in fact affects funding. Moving into the Medicaid waiver, as we've discussed before, we will be paid something called a per member per month. So the more Medicaid eligibles within an area, the more funding. While you will note that the Guilford County funding, similar to the Lee County funding, the expectation is that the Guilford County funding will remain in Guilford County to fund walk-in crisis the same way it remains here. The Medicaid funding will be available for the entire 9-county catchment area. One of the main points and parts of the resolution that you're reviewing tonight is the agreement that we have reached as far as board representation. After a year, what the two boards have agreed to is that we will increase our area board from 26 members to 30 members. That's the maximum allowed by law. What will happen is the 4 vacant slots that will occur from the movement to 30 will go to Guilford County, and Randolph County, who is currently at 7 seats, is giving up 2 of their seats to go to Guilford County. So we will have a board composed of 6 members from Guilford County, 5 members from Randolph County, 4 from Moore and Harnett, 3 from Richmond, and the remaining counties have 2 seats. So with the exception of Randolph, there is no county giving up any board representation.
Ms. Witt, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
On that representation, what's that based on? Is that based on population or?
You know, it's a combination of population and what our board agrees to over the course of the years. Our board has the premise that no county has under 2 representation, and toward the upper end, there's always been the give and take that larger counties would have more representation. I can't say it's exactly per capita, either based on population or funding or spending. It's really has always been a product of what our board has negotiated.
Guilford County, part of the agreement is, what is their initial contribution, $2 million?
Their initial contribution is $3.5 million. What we have worked out with them would be we would get use of all the buildings similar to our other mergers. We would get all the furnishings and equipment, and there would be an upfront $3.5 million contribution to the LME.
You anticipate that Lee County will continue to contribute about the same?
Our hope would be that the contributions from all of our counties would remain the same. That would be our hope. Of course, that's up to the county commissioners.
What happens to the Sand Hills LME physical facility that you're in now? You stay there?
Right. Yeah. None of that would change. We would still have our main office at West End. Our board has seen fit that I would continue to be the CEO. We would have a local presence in Guilford, just like we have here, and we are working right now on what that local presence would look like. That actually is a requirement of the law, that whenever entities merge, they maintain a local presence. But our headquarters would continue to be in Moore County at West End.
I just want to say, I serve on this board, and I've made most of the meetings unless I was out of town, and I will say that they've had very competent legal advice from Tom Van Camp. And so I've been very impressed with his updates to the board, and I guess it's just a few final points now that are being worked out between their board and ours.
Right, exactly.
What Van Camp was that? Moore County.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve this resolution as has been presented, and you've been here before, and hopefully you'll be here hereafter. So, but from my point of view, it looks like you've done due diligence and good work, and I'd like to make that motion, and I would also ask the question, how many counties have signed on so far?
I'm before you tonight, the 4th.
Say again?
4.
Uh-huh.
I have done this presentation to
As
3
you
others.
go through?
And, right.
Okay.
I'm going through each county.
And you need all counties
All
to sign
counties.
on in order to make this, okay? So I
The counties she's presented to, are they all still unanimous? They were last week?
They were all unanimous.
So a motion has been made to approve this resolution to proceed forward with merger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Thank you.
Before you go, I just want to make the board aware. I gave you a copy of an email I received and some notes about an unrelated issue about mental health concerns for departing vets, leaving the Warrior Transition Brigade and the facilities at Fort Bragg into the local population, and that because of the WTB being one of the 2 large facilities in the country is at Fort Bragg, and there's a lot of departing soldiers out of there. I just wanted to make sure it's on your radar screen that, and we want to get you involved in the discussion, that a good number of your member counties are being directly impacted by those discharging vets, and a lot of them are leaving with traumatic brain injuries and PTSD and others. I've run into several here in the local community that are in need of services, and there are sometimes some gaps between the discharge point from the Department of Defense, and before they're picked up for case management in the Veterans Administration. And in those gap periods, we're vulnerable, to soldiers, and what we don't want to have happen is an incident like happened in the Sikh facility out west, or in, or any other of these other incidents, tragic incidents where a soldier hasn't been able to get proper services or didn't seek services and ended up in a tragic loss of life. And what we want to do is try to make sure that that's lifted up on your radar screen, and that we're actively seeking to ensure that we're capturing anybody that's in that situation and getting them back into service.
Absolutely, and we at Sand Hills actually have care coordinators who are assigned to the veteran population.
Okay.
So as we move forward with this, would want them involved.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month. John, is there a reason why the employee survey presentation needs to take place tonight?
No. It's just information only.
Okay.
And I said that it would occur to.
We just have so much longer to go here. So if the board has no objections, we could move that to the next month's meeting. Okay?
Doesn't hurt our feelings.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Joyce, I know you cared for that, but, okay, next. Danielle, this should be short and sweet. Consider appointment to Parks and Recreation Committee.
Madam Chair, fellow commissioners, on page 89 of your agenda package, you'll see where we still have 2 alternate vacancies on the Parks and Rec Commission. So on page 90 is an application that I'm presenting for your consideration for one of those alternate positions.
Madam Chair, I move to approve Eric Davidson as alternate number 1 for the Parks and Rec.
Motion has been made to appoint Eric Davidson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay.
Can I put in a quick plug for the vacancies that we still have?
Sure.
We still need 1 alternate position on the Parks and Rec. We have a vacancy for an education person on the ADA board, someone on the Sanford Planning Board, and they have to live in the ETJ, which is the 1 mile district outside the town. And we have 3 vacancies on the Agricultural Advisory Board, and these are from townships. So we still need someone from Jonesboro, East Sanford, and Cape Fear.
Didn't we, at one of the last, do we have more than one to the planning board that lives in ETJ?
Yeah, we already did 1. Yeah, I'm still looking. I'm trying to find some.
That was a hard one to fill because they have to live in that 1 mile.
Yeah, there's a very small swath, and it's a diminishing swath around the county. But there are people that live in that area that probably aren't aware, and the one we voted on wasn't aware. So we'll keep working.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, consider, you're on the next one. We had some revisions to some policies, so you want to?
Yes, ma'am. At the last meeting, when some board appointments were made, there was some discussion about changing the policy, and also this goes back to the Fire Advisory Board appointments, where I think we wanted to clarify who would be making recommendations for appointments. So the 2 agreements that were affected by the board direction was the resolution for establishment of policies and procedures for appointments to county boards, commissions, committees, and authorities, and the resolution creating the bylaws for the Lee County Fire Advisory Board. So on page 93, in red, there's a change that the Board of County Commissioners may appoint non-residents to serve on appointed boards, commissions, committees, or authorities if a majority of the Board of Commissioners believes such an appointment is in the best interest of the county. And that's the only change to that agreement. And then on page 95, clarifying the appointments of the local fire department board of directors, it says that the 2 members from local fire department board of directors will be proposed by the County Fire Chiefs Association and the Lee County Firefighters Association, 1 from each association. Then we had to make some changes to page 96, length of service of appointments, mainly to comply with the changes that were made to our committees policy. So members appointed to Lee County Fire Advisory Board from the general public and business sectors shall serve a 3-year term, and that used to be 4-year term. Members representing local fire departments shall serve a 3-year term, and once again, that was a 4-year term. And then number 4, we changed, therefore, thereafter, all appointments except a commissioner member shall be for a term of 3 years, and the reason for that is as long as if a commissioner goes off the board, there's an automatic appointment, so we didn't want that to run 3 years and then have an issue where a non-commissioner would continue to serve. And lastly, members of the advisory board shall be eligible for reappointment, but not to exceed 2 consecutive terms unless the majority of the Board of Commissioners feels it is in the best interest of the county to waive this policy, which was waived prior. So those are the changes to the 2 policies that were discussed at last month's meeting.
Madam Chair, I move to approve both those changes.
Okay, motion has been made to approve both of these changes to our policies. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Too.
Please.
Okay. I'd like to take exception to the first part and urge that we not approve this. I do not believe that we should be waiving our rights to appoint citizens from Lee County. To put that another way, I do not think that we should appoint anyone from out of Lee County to fill the positions of these committees and boards. I think this is an honor and a privilege that should be bestowed on citizens of Lee County, and that we should not go forward with this. We made an exception recently. I personally think that was a mistake. I just think that we owe it to the citizens as their elected officials to keep our participation and expertise in Lee County. I think this could get out of control if we were not careful to start dipping out into Moore and Harnett and other places to ask them to be on committees that serve Lee County. I think and I think this includes absentee landlords as well. So I'm just very much opposed to doing that, and I would hope that and expect that we would separate these 2 resolutions and vote on each separately. So that pretty well says.
Madam Chair, I'll withdraw my motion so that we can vote these 2 separately. And I'll change my motion for the first resolution that's under discussion. I'll resubmit that as being the sole resolution under consideration, that we approve the waiver provision.
Madam Chair, the problem with the appointing non-residents, I'm reading the resolution, and nowhere in that does it say, it says the Board of County Commissioners may appoint non-residents to serve on appointed boards, commissions, committees, and authorities if a majority of the Board of Commissioners believes such appointments in the best interest of the county. It doesn't say a thing about that person's got to be a taxpayer in Lee County.
That's actually an excellent point. That we could actually amend the stipulation so that it said if that person is a taxpayer of Lee County. That was the main reason we wanted to add this waiver, because we do have vacancies on boards and we have interested taxpayers who pay a substantial amount of taxes, property taxes here in the county, and we felt like they should have a voice in local government when they do.
And the other,
There you go. There you go. And you know,
taxes in Lee County.
and we are a small county. Let's face it, we are a small county, and everything around here, land ownership, businesses, employment, are all regional. And so, you know, if you've got a large landowner who just happens to live just over the county line, but has, runs a business here and has a lot of interest here, it seems to make sense that he'd be, as a taxpayer, and he's an interested citizen of North Carolina who should have some voice in government here.
And the other thing is, I don't see anywhere here where it says that person or any person serving on the board must stay current with payment of their county taxes. And I don't think.
But we did that.
Waiver should be permitted on that.
Did we not already do that? We already have that in policy.
I don't, well, it may be in our, you're talking about in our
I think it's in
It
a
is.
Look at
policy.
that,
Is it a
look at
separate
the last
policy?
board nomination thing. It's down at the bottom on each one of
I
them.
totally agree with that, too.
Yeah.
They need to be current.
But I think
You want to put it in there too?
You could put it under item EFG, just to say all board appointments will be current in their taxes. And that would also make it simpler for us, because now we got basically two policies into one.
You just say, all board appointments must remain current in their payment of taxes.
So Jim, it'd probably be cleaner if you withdraw your original motion, make a new one with, unless.
I'll withdraw it again, and I, subject to what Doc has just recommended, I think those are good points. I would,
Can I do that
read-
for you?
Yeah, I think the language you're looking for would read like this. B would read as follows. The Board of County Commissioners may appoint non-resident taxpayers to serve on appointed boards, commissions, committees, blah, blah, blah. And that's just insert that, take out the S behind resident and put in the word taxpayers.
and you think that's sufficiently inferred that it's a Lee County taxpayer?
Well, you could say, Lee County property taxpayers, if you'd like to. If you'd like to do that, would that be more, that certainly be clearer.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so, again, the Board of County Commissioners may appoint non-resident Lee County property taxpayers.
What about they appoint Lee County taxpayers who are not residents of Lee County? Just, I don't know. Does that sound better?
The only thing I want to make clear is they need to be tax paying instead
Yeah,
of
there you go.
Lee County. That's
Taxpayers.
It's better.
But residency is not a requirement, is that what the waiver says?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's like, I know people that live outside the county that own two.
I mean, if we were a sufficiently large county, and we had standing room only for getting on our boards and commissions, it would make sense. But we got lots of vacancies we're trying to fill, and some of these guys got an interest, but they can't.
This particular one is addressing the voluntary ag districts, which we still have, what, 3 vacancies? So,
I like Neil's suggestion. I think that works.
okay.
And I would move to approve with that modification.
Motion has been made to approve this first policy change to include that the Board of County Commissioners may appoint non-resident Lee County taxpayers to serve on appointed boards, and the rest of that paragraph. Is comfortable with that?
Don't have a problem.
Okay.
And with the addition of G, all board appointments must remain current in payment of taxes.
Could I make just a technical?
Yes, sure.
Okay. You should say, no board member should be appointed who is delinquent. If there's a different current,
Actually, I kind of like it the other way, where you can't, it infers you can't be appointed unless you're current, and you got to remain current.
okay, all right.
Well, let's say. if-
Current, I don't know what current means.
Not remain current on here. You know, I don't want someone serving on these boards.
That's right.
That doesn't remain current.
That's right.
All board members, okay. All board
We
members
could,
shall remain.
we'll leave that subject to your interpretation of what current is.
All board members shall remain current on their Lee County property tax.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, we got it.
A motion has been made to approve this change of policy with those 2 changes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. What?
2 nays.
2 nays? 4 yays, 2 nays. Do I have that right? Okay.
We need to do the bylaws for the fire advisory board.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the bylaws as amended for the Fire Advisory Board.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the changes to the appointment to the bylaw, or the bylaws for the Lee County Fire Advisory Board. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
In order to keep the fox out of the hen house, we've got 2 members representing business and industry. We have 2 members representing the general public. I'd like to somehow to ensure that those 4 members are not associated with the volunteer fire department in any way.
I don't think they are. Is Mr. Anderson here still?
What's the issue?
The issue is they can have a vote. You can have a tie vote on, well, it's like putting the fox in the hen house. You got 7 members. If you got 2 members of the general public that are also firemen, you got 2 members that are automatically firemen, you got 4 votes. And you served on that board, and I've served on that board, and you should know what I'm talking about.
But do we have any people
it's well
in
over
the
my
general
head.
public who are serving volunteers?
I'm not aware of that. I know I had the last appointment, and, but I don't want it to come to that. But I'm saying we need to head that off to start with.
I don't know that you have any board members on there currently, but yeah, all your volunteer firemen are general public.
Yeah, sure. Everybody's a citizen.
All general public are not volunteer firemen.
That's correct.
And all businessmen aren't volunteer firemen. So we should find someone that's not to put on this board.
So you're suggesting that item 3, under section 1, would read 2 members of the general public who are not
Volunteer firemen.
volunteer firemen.
Same thing with
And the same-
So
section.
that's to keep the lay public involved in what we're doing.
Right.
Okay.
It's like item 2
Okay.
also.
And the same way with the representing business and industry. They should be non-firemen.
Who are volunteer firemen.
That's right. I'm not volunteer firemen.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
I think that's one way to keep the fox out of the hen house.
Do you have any problems with those changes?
No, are you also going to include board of directors for the volunteer fire departments too? I mean, there are a lot of people who are on the board of
Well,
directors.
they've already got a direct interest anyway, because and most of them are gonna be involved.
I don't have a problem with how they set their board.
Okay, just volunteer fire department. No problem.
And you don't have a problem if the commissioner is a volunteer fireman.
Been there, done that.
Madam Chair, I'll amend my motion to be inclusive of Commissioner Oldham's recommendations to insert the language "who are not volunteer firemen" in both items 2 and 3 under section 1.
Okay, so you're gonna add that disclaimer or whatever to both paragraphs 2 and 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we look at that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Motion has been made to pass the resolution creating the bylaws with the changes added to under section 1, paragraph 2, by adding the text "who are not volunteer fire department members," and the same text to the end of paragraph 3. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, can we take a 5-minute recess before the public hearing?
Yes. 5 minutes, everybody.
Hey.
I got a good explanation.
I may not like it.
The guy that did it did get fired.
That's always back to order. There's one clarification that the attorney has mentioned to me, and the resolution to the changes to bylaws of the Fire Advisory Board, just need to make the comment of the record that that affects the next round of appointments. Is that adequate?
Next round of appointments, yes.
Okay.
It would not deceive anybody.
Okay. Jumping around here so much, I hope somebody keep me straight.
We're on the public, we're gonna skip to the public hearing.
Okay, so we're down to Roman numeral 10, public hearing. Public hearing to hear comments in reference to financing of property offered by Dr. Paul Howard and Dr. Barbara James. And this is page 133 in your books. Do I need to say anything or just?
Well, I'll go ahead and introduce the item, and then you can open the public hearing. Since our last meeting, the deal has changed quite a bit. The proposed purchase is now down to 2 properties instead of the 3. The property on Wicker Street, after a great deal of discussion with our bond counsel, we decided to pull that property. So we're down to 2 properties. The one on Summit Drive, which is proposed that we purchase for $675,000 at an interest rate of 4% over 49 months from Dr. Howard and Dr. James.
49 or 59?
59, excuse me. And Dr. James and Dr. Howard will then donate the property on Steel Street at a value of $200,000 to us. So, and last month I also got asked if there would be a deed of trust, and I have said last month that there would not be. There will be a deed of trust this go round, since the transaction is a little bit easier, I guess, to do that with. So the proposal would be to use the Summit Drive facility for office space for Lee County administration, attorney's office, finance, GIS, and human resources. And the Steel Street property would be used by the community college as a small business center and house their small business group. So this transaction does not actually have to be approved by the local government commission again anymore, because we've reduced the financing to 59 months and it's less than $1 million in purchase. But we went ahead with the public hearing since it involved a borrowing, and we can now get into public hearing.
So we're just going to conduct the public hearing tonight. We're not going to take any action on this, right?
No, ma'am. September we will hopefully have the documents ready for the board to approve. But tonight is simply public hearing.
John, do you have a spreadsheet created with a cost benefit of this, other than the donation, which is a benefit, but we're giving up some taxable property, we're taking off some that we're going to buy, but we're also saving money on space that we currently spend with the city. So do you have that for each of us?
I don't have it for each of you. I did furnish the proposal, I think it was back in May, and gave you the summary of the key financial numbers. And the numbers have changed, but the annual savings from the COPS refinancing is $135,000, and the total rental income from the 2 stores that are currently on Steel Street is $47,200. So the gross benefit there is $172,200. The loss of property taxes Actually, it'll be a little bit less since there's not one of the properties involved, but it's $5,365 loss of annual property taxes, and the annual savings for the rental of the property from the city GIS is $15,000. So in the transaction, the new payment will be $149,000 a year, and we still have about $40,000 over that in savings
So I guess
and revenue from the rentals.
before we actually vote on that, if you could have it in a formal document for each
Okay,
of us.
I will rewrite that.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay. So I now declare the public hearing open on the matter of accepting Dr. Howard and Dr. James's property that they're donating to the county, and also the matter of the county purchasing the property on Summit Drive. All those in favor of this real estate transaction, if there's anybody who's in favor, please approach the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to speak in favor of this proposition, mainly because of the intended use of the property on Steel Street. In today's struggling economy, small businesses are looking for every advantage they can to grow and to thrive. And many communities are taking advantage of this by creating business incubators. We have one of the most successful small business centers in the state of North Carolina, an award-winning center that has often been judged as one of the best in the state. We would like to relocate that to the downtown property, where we would engage in a business incubator activity similar to the business incubator that we currently operate in Dunn. I think I provided you some information that shows over the life of the Dunn Business Incubator, they have incubated or helped create over 130 new businesses, generating over 3,500 jobs. Small business jobs are the wave of the future. Helping small business is what progressive communities do, and I would urge you to support this particular purchase. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Commissioners. I'm Dale Fine, I'm the Small Business Center Director for Central Carolina Community College. I also want to give my support to the purchase of the building and moving my office downtown. I think it would be better for us in terms of being centrally located, a little easier for our colleagues and clients to find us. In the last 2 years, the Lee Small Business Center has serviced 458 clients. 316 of those were not individuals that had businesses, and I'd say about 65% of the individuals that came out of that group were seeking economical office space or space to operate a business. So I think this would be a marvelous idea for the community and certainly the people that I serve. Thank you.
Not so fast. Before you go, Dale, give us just 2 or 3 quick points about activities that you would perform out of this facility in its downtown location. Just off the top of your head, 2 or 3 items, 2 or 3 different types of activities you would perform, and the types of clients that would come in to see, in the counseling and the other support services you would provide.
Well, typically that is what we do. We do confidential counseling, one-on-one. Normally it takes place in my office, although it's not necessary. We'll go to a small business if that's more convenient for them. And that is not just a one-time occurrence, it's a series. We do follow-ups almost every 30 to 60 days. We provide resources to them in the community in terms of planning department, permitting, banking, any type of help that they can. We help them with business plans. The other thing we do is we'll be offering educational seminars at that location, in addition to other locations, on how to start a business, how to do business plans, marketing, things of that sort. And then from the incubator standpoint, we would be looking for opportunities for individuals that want to start a business, and typically that maybe they've been in their home for a while and they're ready for the next step. So we would bring them in and help them assimilate into the incubator space.
Have you surveyed the square footage there and the amount of space that would be available and the capacity you might have for a number of small businesses to be housed there?
I don't know the actual square footage, but I have toured the space. It's made up of existing business offices now. Haven't been inside any of the actual offices, but peering in some of the windows, they look to be in good size.
Okay, and do you have any idea about how many small businesses could actually operate out of there in an interim status?
I'm going to just guess. I'd say 15 to 20, perhaps. I don't exactly know how many offices are currently there.
And I would agree with that assessment. A lot, though, is going to depend, Commissioner, on what we're able to do with what I call the third floor, which is where Max Department Store has its corporate offices. There's a lot of space up there that could potentially be used either for arts production or business, because there are some ADA issues that we would have to deal with. So while what I call the bottom floor is kind of almost ready, it's got the offices broken up. The third floor offers real potential. That's to be seen.
And the intent of this building is to serve as a small business incubator, not as other extension of the Central Carolina Community College for other purposes?
That's right.
Other than the educational seminars, which of course
Okay.
I think would add to the appeal of being the location of the incubator.
And you would want to put in the plan some component of tenancy, so you don't have people there for 10 years. Some incubators operate that they raise the rent every year. There's a 2 to 3 year conditional program, and if you grow, you can stay. So, it just depends on how we collectively structure that.
Okay.
Dale, how many small businesses started this year?
This year in Lee County, we started 19.
Okay.
We had 109 jobs connected to that. That's reported from our clients. Overall, in our entire service area, there was 31 businesses started, about 200 jobs.
Okay, do you do any follow-up with them to see if they need any other assistance?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the way the process works is we stay with them until they no longer want our help. But then they stay in our files, and we'll do a follow-up. Like this year we did, this year the Small Business Center Network asked all small business centers to do an annual survey and go back 2 years. We elected to go back 3 years because we just felt that was better. We have better reach. And so we sent out surveys to about 922 people, and we received almost 16% response, either telling us what they were in need of or exactly where they were. And so we do that regularly. Any other questions? Thank you.
Any other individuals wishing to speak for or against?
My name is Dave Schau. I live here in Sanford, and I think this idea for a small business incubator is a great idea. I'm personally working with my partner to start a small business here, a staffing group, and as you can imagine, one of the hurdles that we are facing right now is where would we open our office and where can we network with other small businesses to grow? Because, like we all know, it's an election season. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, we know that in the United States, small business is the backbone of business growth and jobs. So we heard about this incubator. I wanted to be here. My partner couldn't make it, but we're very much in favor of something like this, and we would love to be on the list to be one of the first participants.
Good evening. Joanne Thaxton. I am a small business operator here in Sanford with the help of the center. However, there's many people like myself who want to expand and do more. We don't have the space or the way or the wherefore to do it. This would enable many people to work together to get the small business out of the house and into a more professional atmosphere where they then could grow, hire others, and become more stable in what they're trying to do. I have seen it done in other areas. I think one of the best examples that we could give you all is that a shop on Moore Street had turned into an open place for people to go that you could afford to stay do your product and spend all of your time working on your product and what you wanted to sell. So far, there are 100 business persons represented under one roof on Moore Street, and we need more space. So if you all can help us, then that means we all get to stay here and we get to bring others. And if you don't let us stay here, then we have to move, and that's not such a good deal. Thank you.
I guess just anybody who wants to speak, just come up. We're not going to turn anybody away.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Hazen-Kluga. I'm the owner of a small business called Lighthouse Documentation and Training here in Sanford. I currently operate it out of my house. A lot has been said about incubators and their importance and helping facilitate smarter, faster startups of businesses that will ultimately become enterprises in our community that will give back. And I am in favor of this incubator starting. When I moved my business here 6 years ago, it was 3 years old at the time, and I was looking for a professional space, a space that I could afford, that I feel comfortable bringing my clients into other than my home, something where I maybe have access to shared resources such as a copier or a fax machine or internet, things that I couldn't afford at the time. And I searched around and I couldn't find any space that fit those needs. I'm also a client of the Small Business Center. As has been mentioned, it's award-winning. It's already done great things to help promote businesses, offers a lot of services, but what it can't offer right now is that professional office space and a place where small business owners like myself can not only have that space, but also collaborate with other small business owners. I was looking for a place where I could also meet other small business owners, come up with ways to partner with them, share ideas, brainstorm, and things like that. I've probably outgrown, my business is old enough now that I probably wouldn't qualify to be in an incubator, which is a great thing, but what took me 6 years to accomplish on my own probably could have happened a lot faster if we had an incubator when I moved here. So I'm in support of this. I think one thing to keep in mind is that every large business started as a small one, and I think we should continue to help small businesses thrive in Lee County. Thank you.
Come ahead.
Thank you. Ed Underwood here in Sanford. All this sounds great. Everything, I think it's pertaining to Steel Street and down that way, that sounds very, very good, everything I've heard so far. I do have a question about the Summit Avenue facility though. Just wondering what is the assigned value of that, the tax assessed value of that property now? I am familiar with the property.
It's a little over $300,000.
It's what?
Right around $300,000.
300,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Others? This is fun. We haven't had this many people for a public hearing in a long time.
That's since we did the education budget 2 years ago.
I have good things to say.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Harrington. I'm a local attorney, and I have a new business myself. It's 2 years old, and I also, like Ms. Klug, looked for a facility that was professional, that was safe, that had resources that I could share, that had a collaborative environment. There was nothing out there. I'm very pleased with where I am now, but if there had been a business incubator, I would have been first one on the list. I now employ one part-time employee, and I hope to make her full-time, and I hope to grow my business. But I just wanted to register my support of the business incubator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Thompson, and I am also a client of the Small Business Center. I actually moved here in January, and since I moved here, I went from an idea to working with the Small Business Center and actually starting my business recently. And I just wanted to say that I was in support of a business incubator. I work out of my home right now, but eventually it would be something that I personally would be interested in. And I also have started a networking group here in Sanford for business women. And it would also be something that, we have about 15 members or so right now, and it would be something that I think they would all eventually be interested in or could use.
Anybody else who's wishing to speak for or against? Go ahead.
I'm here to talk about the education budget.
You're a little late.
As it relates to the community college,
I think this is a great idea, and I'm fully supportive of establishing a business incubator in downtown Sanford. I think it's a fantastic idea. But I would also like to register the chamber's support for the county's financing mechanism and purchase of this. I was actually a county employee when we moved into this building, when we renovated this building and moved into it in the late 80s or early 90s. It's so long ago, but so we've been here 20 years and 25 years, and this has been a great facility. But I know that we need space. We've grown a lot in our community since then, and we need a lot more space for health department and social services. So I think it's great that you all will look for space, reuse an older building, look for great ways to finance it, and look for space that you couldn't possibly build for that amount of money. So from the business community standpoint, thank you very much for looking for this really efficient, innovative way to provide a government space. I'll just say that the National Business Incubator Association says there are 4,000 incubators in the world, 1,100 in the United States. Most are very successful. I've talked to several in the past week. Chattanooga, Tennessee has a 22-year-old incubator. They have 500 business graduates of that incubator that employ now over 3,000 people. So it is a concept that works. They're more than just cheap rent and somebody to answer your telephone. Research shows by the NBIA that 87% of businesses survive the first 5 years if they start in an incubator. And that is double the rate of those who do not. So an incubator is a great way to start, just like it is for babies to get a good start that need a good start. That's not to say that business can't start in somebody's garage. It certainly can. We've got a great example of that. Static Control, Ed Schwartz will tell you, started in his basement. But I think it does say that businesses that get a good start and plenty of helpful advice have a better chance of being successful. So back to the education budget. We need a robust incubator with an effective staff and state-of-the-art business tools. Now, it's an old building. It can stay an old building, but we need a good staff, and we need some really state-of-the-art business tools up there to make it work. So I don't want us to forget that. It will not be a magic bullet, but it will certainly add to our competitive advantage in Lee County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak out?
Hopefully I'm last but not least. I'd also like to speak in favor of the business incubator. I think it's a great
Name,
idea.
sir, we just need that for the record.
Bob Jones.
Okay.
And the incubator, I think, will be a great draw to downtown Sanford, which is a good thing. But it'll also, it may affect the local coffee shops, because if you notice how many small business meetings, and Kelly and I have had many in the coffee shops take place because there is no other space available. But I think the one point that perhaps hasn't been touched on is the biggest need for small business to get them up and going is cash. Cash flow is king. And if we can do something to soften that demand to give them professional space, I think is exactly the right thing to do. I think the Small Business Center has also demonstrated, and I too am a client of Dale's in his Small Business Center. If we can give them additional tools, and I think there's tremendous synergistic opportunities here when you look at what the county has done in terms of putting this small business incubator in play, as well as the Innovation Center and a number of other things. I think you're really putting Sanford as one of the go-to places for small business, and I think that's a very important step to take. So I congratulate you for that, and I look forward to your vote.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody opposed? I guess I thought I was asking if anybody wanted to speak either way, but everybody's been for it. Anybody opposed? Then I'll close this public hearing. Thank you. And I just want to say for the public record, I moved to Lee County about 30 years ago. That's dating myself, I know. But Don Steck was then the small business director. He was just opening up the Dunn incubator. So it's amazing that has stayed open all these years. He also gave me the encouragement and whatever to take that step to leave the comfort of steady job I had to fulfill my dream of having my own training company. And I did that, and it was very successful for about 15 years. So I'm a firm believer in the small business centers and what they can do. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everybody, for coming out to speak on behalf of the neighbors.
Okay, where am I? Back to business?
Do you want to bring Bo up first?
Okay.
Under item B, under new business, so he can go have dinner with his family?
Cook that.
Okay, you have
Yeah, you gotta cook.
New business, item B.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Sometimes I have to live by the rules I make. Every day the kids in the Boys and Girls Club coach say I believe in fair play, honesty, and sportsmanship. I gotta do that too. Need to read you a letter I have written because I failed to do something earlier this spring, and I'm asking if it can be changed. I want to thank you folks for the past support of our club efforts. Our program is running strong. We're currently serving about 300 children per day between our two sites here in Lee County. We're also remodeling the Church Street facility, and we anticipate reopening in a fresh, somewhat larger capacity October 1st of this year. Our latest new program is a mentoring effort in which we have enrolled 71 dependents of local military enlisted men and women. The results of that program have been amazing as we discover that cohort of local children have a unique set of challenges that are not necessarily experienced in a traditional household. That's a little club update. The reason for my request this afternoon is to ask your consideration in renewing last year's county contract with the club to transport up to 180 students from Lee County schools to the Boys and Girls Club for the entire 180 days of the school calendar year. I failed to submit the application to the county on time. I'm the only party responsible for this failure. Between handling the logistics of the new military grant, single-handedly managing the logistics of the club's annual golf tournament, and quite frankly, being consumed with the imminent loss of the best friend to cancer, I dropped the ball. However, my error of omission could cost agencies around me and the children we serve to suffer. 2011-2012 contract was for $16,650 to be paid to the club for us to use our privately owned buses, our staff and resources to pick up Lee County school children at the end of the school day and then transport them to the club for after-school tutoring and other programming opportunities. This was accomplished through collaborating with Lee County Schools transportation officials and various school principals. The problems my error of omission causes are 3 of the club's 4 buses were purchased from the North Carolina surplus program more than 8 years ago, indicating that they require extensive maintenance to keep them safe. This can be an expensive process for us. Next, after checking with Lee County Schools transportation officials, they're in the same situation they had last year. Budgeting concerns have caused them to have to use what they have without adding buses to handle any population increases. Last year was the first school year that we were actually opened every single day of the school calendar year, and it was due to the obligations of the county transportation contract with you. In closing, I apologize for making a mistake. Hope you will forgive the error and consider renewing the transportation contract. And have a copy of that letter, copy of the application from last year, and copy of the contract that we have with Lee County. I failed. I didn't turn the contract application in on time.
Are we ready for questions? Okay. You went to the school system and you talked to transportation coordinator at the school system.
Yes, sir.
And you have done an estimate on the number of school children that you carry that relieves them of a burden
Yes.
each day of school, because you're open all 5 days each week.
We're
right?
open, yeah, last year we were open, that was part of the contract. The county said you had to be open every day,
Right.
schools are open.
Right.
And we obliged, yes, 3 full buses at least every
Okay.
day, so that's 180.
So you're carrying 180 children every day that Reed Cagle would otherwise have to get transported around the county. Okay, so you are relieving the schools of a burden each day. They don't have to come pick those kids up from you, right?
Correct, they did not.
So the parents pick up from the Boys and Girls Club.
That's correct.
All right, so in effect, if you were to enter into a contract, follow my logic here. If you were enter into a contract with Lee County for this $16,650 to cover a shortfall on the part of the school system to be able to transport those children, I'd be more inclined to vote or to support the late request for funding because you're providing a contracted service which is essential. That would be my logic on this. I don't know what the other commissioners feel. I know there's a tendency for us to be able to be hard-nosed about late budget submissions. And but you know, if we're providing a valuable contract service and no one in their right mind questions the efficacy of the Boys and Girls Club of Lee County. I mean, it's a model program. It's the one nonprofit that makes a noteworthy difference in the quality of life and in the opportunities for excellence on the part of our youth. I don't think there's anything even close in comparison, so there's no question about the worthiness of the Boys and Girls Club. The question is, how do we justify approving a late submission like this that'll be off budget now? It'll have to go back to the general fund or whatever. So
Just take it out of fund balance.
Out of fund balance. And we've had some other surpluses in fund balance that were unexpected, I guess, you know, that would go to fund balance. So I'm not so concerned about, you know, us dipping too low with $16,000. But I would just argue to the county commissioners, as much as we normally disapprove these kinds of things when they're late submitted, I would be inclined to support this one because it's providing an essential contracted service that otherwise couldn't be provided.
Well, it's a very good purpose. Okay, I'm ready to make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the request for funding for transportation. Is there any further discussion?
I have one more question. Just refresh my memory, though. What's the parents' buy-in in this?
For this, now, as Commissioner Womack said, the parents come and pick the children up from the club. The parents' cost for their children to participate in the club is $32 during the school year. Then during the summer, we're up in 57.5 hours a week, and it costs them $20 a week to participate in the summer. And, you know, really that's where the parents come in. One of the things that wasn't mentioned as I was talking with Mr. Cagle, and I asked him if I could mention this, he said, you sure can. He said, we need you guys to run what we did last year, because outside of doing that, we'll have to add double loads, and he said, we certainly don't have resources. It would cost more if we didn't do it the way we did it last year. The mistake that was made was mine, not submitting the application.
I agree with Jim with his statement. There's just two concerns I have. One is, you know, we're funding the school, and yet they're expecting you to do part of their job. The other is the involvement with the parents. It seems to me like there needs to be a little bit more involvement there, funding-wise.
Well,
is there something I don't know that I should know?
Well, I alluded to the fact that we tried the year before to charge parents $1 a day to get the children to the club, roughly $20 a month. You look at the business days, and we lost a significant percentage of the children who we focus on. And fortunately, over time, I'll remind you that over the 17 years, 17,000 plus Lee County residents have had 0 school dropouts, 1 teen pregnancy, and 4 arrests.
No, I think your record is
sometimes the
extremely
children
great.
have to come around and sit down at the dinner table and help mom and dad get it right. We got to get them there to begin with, though.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Hedrick's request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Do I need to leave copies?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to have it.
Thanks, bud. Off to cook dinner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. guess. Under old business, I am to F. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, you're right on target.
Okay. So this was something that was in the consent agenda, the Health Department Community Transformation Program grant, and there were several of us who had questions. So, Mr. Jones?
Good evening, good afternoon. I added some extra information.
Let me just start with my questions. That might be
All
an
right.
easier way to do it.
Mhm.
My first question is this part of Obamacare, the money that came down? I'm serious.
I believe that actually it is. I believe that it's the Affordable Care Act
Okay.
funding through CDC and then through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and a grant that was provided to North Carolina to the Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public Health.
So it is part of Obamacare,
Mm.
okay.
I believe so.
Others? Charlie, what were your
Yeah.
questions?
Have you been doing any coordinating with North Carolina Cooperative Extension? Because they do some of the same thing, and I just wonder, is there duplication going on, and how closely are you involved with what they're doing?
Yes, we do work with the Cooperative Extension Service. I don't believe that we have duplication. I work with Susan Conlon and talk to her on a weekly basis about the farmers markets and that type of thing. That is one of our main responsibilities in Lee County for this region. And in this packet, well, I included a handout here.
So where is there not duplication? Because they seem to do some of the same things as far as farmers market, mobile markets, and farm stands.
Mhm.
Their boxes of food.
Well, the way that this is working is as a regional effort. So all 10 counties in Region 6, which includes Lee County, will be working to do inventories of areas in each county that don't have access to farmers markets and or food stands, that type of thing. We'll be doing an inventory. We'll be working on policy changes to improve access to these healthier foods, and supporting local growers, that type of thing. So,
Okay, why are we involved with other counties on this? Why, I mean, this is Lee County, and we have some of this initiative already going on.
I believe that this is a concept from the top down that says let's work at a larger basis to get more experiences from different groups in the region who have had successes, and we share our successes with each other to get better.
Let me ask.
We talked about 3 new employees. Let's say Obamacare goes away next year. What happens to the employees if there's no longer any grant money?
I hired this employee through a temp agency, the North Carolina Health Alliance, and so that.
Okay, so we only have one rather than 3. Who's the other 2 is
Yes.
for? I mean, you listed 3 employees in there.
Let me ask you, on that same track there, does that divert any of the existing staff, current staff, to part-time or extracurricular activities related to the grant effort?
Our health promotion supervisor, Sandra Boyd, will supervise this new employee.
So she'll take this on as an additional task?
She is getting some training herself, and that this grant's paying for, so that she can oversee those activities.
Does some of her salary come from this grant?
No, it
No,
doesn't.
it doesn't. Okay, just the extra training she does.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Parks, I hope I've answered your questions about what your concerns are, but if
Well,
you
I just,
re-ask,
it concerns me that we're doing this overall scope. I mean, I realize that the $150,000 is grant money. We don't have any Lee County money involved there, except it's all taxpayer money.
That was my question.
It's all federal
Involved, they're not. There's no local funds involved, are there?
No, sir.
Well, then,
Well, not exactly. Not exactly.
Your taxpayer money.
Well, not exactly. I mean, there are
taxpayer money.
Our tax dollars do pay for staff, and you just conceded that Sandra Boyd will have some oversight responsibility that we have to pay for. In other words, she will be less focused on other tasks that she might perform on health awareness and promotion around the county, and will have to take on this additional burden, right?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
not sure it'll be a burden,
Well-
but a responsibility, yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Are there any other staff besides yourself that will also be engaged in supervisory oversight of any capacity?
I don't know, sir.
Okay.
Is she coordinating the overall effort for all these counties, or is there a main overall coordinator?
The new person that we've hired,
No,
Sandra.
I mean, the whole program itself, who's coordinating the overall effort?
Cumberland County in this 10-county region, Region 6, is the lead county. And they've hired two coordinator positions that coordinate over the 10-county region. It's kind of, the way it was structured was new to me. They have given us the responsibility of developing these farmers markets and sharing sites for doing exercise and whatnot. They have done that with Lee County being responsible, our coordinator looking over Moore County and Harnett County as well. So that when we get projects going, that she will be talking to them about doing similar projects.
So you're saying that, let me stop you there. You said that if I heard you right, you said that our coordinator, that you hired through the temp, will have responsibilities extraterritorial, outside of Lee County.
That's right.
In Moore and Harnett. Okay, so.
But that's what they told us, and that's how we structured the hire. Now it appears that really she will be developing things in Lee County and sharing them with all of the 10 counties. And I don't really see the direct relationship with just Moore and just Harnett. Really, whatever she's developing here or information she's gathering from other counties regarding farmers markets and food stands will be, dispersed throughout that area. So they gave us a structure at the beginning. This was not a grant we requested or that we applied for. It was a grant that we were given. And when they, and on the second page of this handout, there's the state announcement when it came out last September 2011 of how the money was being distributed. And they told us, you will do this, and this is how you'll do it. And then around January, they said, well, this is actually not how you're going to do it. You're going to do it this way. And then in May, they've said, we're going to do it another way. We're going to change our name. So now it's called the Community Transformation Project.
And the goal is to do what? To transform people here into eating broccoli if it's delivered to your front door?
I think that the goal is to reduce chronic diseases in North Carolina, heart disease.
So we're not gonna transport locally grown tobacco products to anybody.
I don't
And
believe
when you
so.
say they're interested in policy changes, tell me you're not considering telling all your fast food places or your Quick Trips and all those that they're gonna have to sell water and juice rather than sodas and whatever, like Bloomberg's trying to do in New York. I mean, they're not trying to, I'm serious. This is not gonna turn into a lobbying effect, is it? To try to have fresh broccoli in every fast or corn or sweet potatoes or whatever?
I don't think that they're going
That's good sweet broccoli.
they won't tell them that they must, but they will do.
I think it's to
Promotions.
promote the wellness.
It's
You
promotion.
can't, I don't think you can force anybody
But
into it,
for
but I think
instance,
you're there trying to promote the
You know,
wellness.
one of the areas, that's what we're focusing in, but right now our 10-county region and all the regions in North Carolina are right now focusing on smoking cessation or tobacco use cessation. And we have a policy here in our county that our government buildings are tobacco-free. And so now they want us to move to public places being tobacco-free.
Doc, Terrell, to answer this question for me, it says in this announcement that you gave us tonight that this grant has a broad application in the area of health awareness and promotion. And it talks about, you just mentioned tobacco cessation, but it also talks about other things. that you didn't address when you were talking about the farmer's market and the distribution of wholesome foods. Is this person you hired supposed to have a broader scope than just the coordination of you know, what they call those food deserts? Is she supposed to be, or he or she supposed to be responsible for more than just that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there will be some extension in what we already do in chronic disease efforts and in trying to do health promotion as part of this grant.
Yes, sir. The central coordinator out of Cumberland County will say, we need an inventory of smoking cessation policies from municipalities and small governments throughout our 10 regions. And so they'll be collecting those policies and summing up what they have and then recommending visits. I will probably be back presenting to this board about proposals to improve our smoking cessation policies in this county.
Let me ask you this: do you feel like currently with the funding that we've already provided that you have effective, or you have the ability and the resources to do effective health promotion and awareness in Lee County?
With this particular project?
No, I'm not talking about. I'm excluding this project. Were you already reasonably well funded to do what you have to do?
It's tight right now, and I think that we always welcome additional funding for health promotion. There's just so much that two people can do in our county with a population of around 65,000 people. So.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the Community Transformation Program grant as presented for reasons that, you know, I'm sort of underwhelmed by the presentation, frankly. But I think that there's real value in this, and it's a cooperative venture with these other counties, and it's a grant, and I think it's one that it seems to me like just my sense of the uptake of all of this, that it's probably going to be a worthwhile effort, and I also think that Obamacare is going to be around for a while, so you can take that to the bank too, fellow commissioners. But I would like to formally put this in the form of a motion.
And I'd like to say this: I know that from judging from the reaction here that everybody's not real hipped up on it, but it's $150,000, and this won't be given to somebody. So why not take it here in Lee County and spend it? Maybe somebody in Lee County will benefit from it.
Let me just say one more thing. Susan Connell and I talked today. She said at 1:30 tomorrow, there is at the Wicker Center a presentation on this. So if anybody wants to know more about it, that's where they can go.
Cheryl, I hope you haven't taken my criticism personally. I understand where you're coming from. But with this nation approaching $16 trillion in debt, 40 cents of every dollar is borrowed. At some point, at the local, state level, people got to say, enough is enough. We can't afford this. And so, in good conscience, I can't support this. So I'm probably going to be the only.
Well, I would like to reply that what they're trying to do is health prevention rather than managing health issues after they've already been created.
Where in the Constitution does it say that that's their right to take our taxpayer dollars to take care of my neighbor who doesn't have the good sense to smoke or do drugs or whatever, you know, so.
I'd just like to add one closing comment as well. Just because money's available doesn't mean you have to take it. If it's going to create any redundancy or if it's going to create additional burden that's not directly related to the grant, like the diversion of supervisory responsibility to oversee this thing, there is a cost. And therefore, I can't support it as well, because whether or not it's Obamacare is irrelevant to me. It's just one more top-driven funding opportunity, and this is not the only one. There's bunches of other ones, like weatherization of homes and all these other things that are flying around with grants. Even though the country is broken right now, we still got grant opportunities coming out of our ears. Mm-hmm. And I keep looking at these things and saying, is the value add really worth it? And if enough counties were to rise up and say, you know what, we don't want your help. We don't want your intrusion into our lives. We will manage with the resources we have available. I think we would all be back on a track towards fiscal responsibility, and that's why I can't support.
We vote, please.
What this is about is the
politicized.
Pardon me.
I was saying this is getting rather politicized, and I think we ought to vote on this.
I'd like to just say one more thing, if I may. Policy development is not easy, and it's actually expensive to get facilitators in and get people to agree and pull in all the resources and figure out who's going to do what. And we would not have the resources to do policy development with our current health promotion budget. We just don't have it. Now, this is being offered to us, and it does give us an opportunity to work on policy development, tobacco cessation, healthy eating, getting exercise, and communicating and getting the word out. So I see it as an opportunity, and I see it will benefit not just our county, but our region. And so, as I was saying earlier today, this is a small county, and it does spill over into the other counties. We get clients that can come to our health department from other counties and vice versa. So I believe that it will benefit us. Policy development is not easy and it's not cheap. And this is really the only way that we can do that.
Okay, motion has been made to approve the Community Transformation Program grant as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
So is it 4-2? Am I right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Let's see.
2 against for Commissioner Walden and me.
4-2. 4 ayes and 2 nays.
Right.
Very good.
Okay. Item G, which is proposal for the 2012 Possible Hazardous Waste Collection Day.
Yeah, I just had one question, and we probably could have stayed on together and just asked a question, but when we do these waste hazard type programs, those people take that and they recycle it and they make money off of it. Do we get any percentage back out of that?
Not all of it's recycled, but no, we don't get any percentage back out of it.
Why don't we negotiate for percentage out of it? Same thing with our waste management out here.
I'm not sure that they're actually making money off of the things that they're recycling.
Recycling, having been in the business, does not pay for itself.
So you did something right, because they did up in Washington State.
I'm sure it has to do with volume.
Yeah.
You know, and this is just something we do once a year here.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
I have one. Hold on a minute. I was looking at, these are unit bid prices. We set this so it doesn't exceed the budgeted.
That can be done when we talk to the contractor, say, let us know if it's going above a certain price.
By the way, one point I would make is that some of the items that are here for us to collect as a convenience to the population are already collected free of charge by other facilities in the county. And I would like to see us, at some point making an effort, maybe from General Services, to identify those locations around the county. For example, Lowe's Home Improvement Center collects batteries. Any of the and they recycle those things. They use them, and they do that as free of service to the customers that walk in there. We ought to identify some of those items that can be turned in, and maybe do a little education, so we will reduce the burden and the cost, the per unit cost that we absorb later on during the year. It might save some money.
Well, that's used motor oils.
That's right.
Oil would pick that up in
Yeah.
most instances, I think.
Well, we take used motor oil at our convenience centers, and we don't pay to get rid of that.
Okay.
So there's no charge for that. But this is and we get very little motor oil at this day. And this is just if somebody just happens to have some that has it in their car and they bring it, they can take it.
What do you usually find out that most of this is? Is it tires and things like that?
Paint. Paint.
Okay. So I
Thank you,
need
Joe.
a motion to approve the proposal with MXI Environmental
So moved.
Services. Okay, motion has been made to approve the proposal. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Is that out of here already?
No, he said
He said that.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sticking around so long. Okay, item H, project ordinance for scattered site housing.
That's me. I still have a problem with who identifies and who administers this program. Who identifies who's going to be helped and who approves it and who administers the funds.
I will try to answer that question, although my expert is not here, Karen Kennedy. But Scatter's site, typically, I would say typically, the way the programs operate is we maintain an ongoing inventory of applicants for these programs that meet the eligibility guidelines. And I would like to specifically cite what those are, but it's usually a percentage of poverty rate that they determine. So there's an income threshold that they have to meet in order to be eligible for the program. An application is accepted. We maintain an ongoing inventory or listing of people who have applied for that over the years, and we're constantly recycling that and getting those next clients up to the next level. And then there is a committee that actually goes through the criteria and ranks those in order, and then they're funded according to that.
Okay, so how does a citizen know that they can make application to get on that list?
There is public notices made in papers.
Okay.
And we also advertise through the television stations and on the websites.
Okay.
We try to get out and as I said before, there's a long list that Karen Kennedy has in her filing cabinet that she's constantly trying to work down that list. And the county's been very successful over the years in securing funding, and we've had, I think, made a very measurable impact on improving the housing stock in the county using this program.
Yeah, and Charlie, they have a ranking system that they use, and they're scoring points, based on the surveys that are done with our consultant. And so that's what the committee reviews, is where the point system is. And so, if somebody new comes in, is in really bad shape, worse than other people on the list, they could go to the front. And that's how it works. And that does happen that way.
Okay, that's understood.
Besides the urgent repair program, which is one of our most popular programs, this is as effective a housing rehab program as you'll see.
I move to approve the grant project.
Motion has been made to approve the project ordinance. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Thank you, Mr. Bridwell. Okay. I'm now down to new business. I believe item C, request from Sanford Lee County Airport Authority. Is that correct?
Yes, the official name is still the Sanford Lee County Airport Authority.
It is?
Yes, it is. That is our legal name.
Oh.
The Raleigh Executive Jetport is a marketing name that we use to, for Mr. Smith's, knowledge here that we changed the name so that we could put the name in the flight book. Charlie will have to help me out here, but when a pilot goes online and he's looking for an airport in, say, Cary or something like that, we were not popping up as an alternate to RDU. So we changed the name to Raleigh Exec, because now when someone puts in, okay, I'm taking a client to Cary or Apex or Raleigh, we pop up as an alternate airport now. So it was really more of a marketing ploy to try to increase traffic to the airport. So, but no, we had to leave our legal name as still the Sanford Lee County Airport Authority, because that's what the legislature.
It helps with the funding too, since it would be an alternate airport for Raleigh.
That's right.
So the Federal Aviation Administration helps fund.
And I do need to qualify that I am a member of the authority. So in coming to you and presenting this, I did vote in favor of this item to come to the board. So that's.
John, let's add that in your packet of other information, I asked John to pull the financials for the airport authority, both the P&Ls and the balance sheets, and he put that in one of his folders. I saw it earlier. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I thought that.
The Family Day flyer.
What's that?
The Family Day flyer's in there.
And I think it'd be a good idea for us to get that at least on an annual basis, especially when we're at budget time or whatever. But John, in a nutshell, this involves $450,000.
Yes, ma'am. The total project cost is $900,000, $425,000 to buy the existing hangar, and an estimated $475,000 for the upgrades. The authority decided to pursue this option because we put out the bid building a new hangar, and it came in at $1.15 million. So there was a savings of over $200,000. This is really a construction loan that we're asking for. We have a permanent 80% loan commitment from Central Carolina Electric Membership Corporation at 0% interest. The requirement from Central Electric is that the building be completed before they will take a deed of trust on the property. So basically, we're doing a construction loan to them. We're trying to do a construction loan, and then we would get paid the 80% back probably within 12 months after the construction is finished. And the 20%, they've talked about wanting to split that between the city and the county. But as you can probably see from the financial reports, and also we have $499,000 in the reserve account that we hold for the airport. My recommendation is that we pay the 20% off and not pay any interest. So hopefully that will, happen at the end, but there was still discussion on that. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We're still in negotiations with the Forestry Service. And then that contract or that lease has to be approved by the Council of State. And so we're trying to finalize that, and it's been a very slow process. But in the meantime, the Council of State is looking for that commitment from us, from the Airport Authority, that we're going to do the hangar.
This will continue upon them signing the lease agreement.
Yes. And the base lease amount that we've been talking is $125,000 per year. So
from the forestry?
From the Forestry Service.
Okay.
So it's a positive cash flow situation. Plus, they'll end up being one of the largest fuel users on the site.
I believe they're gonna have maintenance in that hangar too,
And they'll
right?
have maintenance, and so it's about 8 jobs.
How many aircraft, John, will be involved, roughly?
Upwards of 6, plus a helicopter.
And they'll be more in and out, because I think it's for the whole district, is it not, that they're
It's actually,
in and out?
for this region, they're trying to consolidate operations, so we would be, for the central region of the state, we would be the lone operation for North Carolina Forestry Service Air Service.
So this is actually a bridge loan to allow them to go ahead so that they can get the 0% loan from Central Carolina, or from Central Electric. And once they get that loan from Central Electric, then we will get paid back.
Yes, ma'am. And for disclosure purposes, this is for us, I'm talking as an authority member, saves us $20,000 to $25,000 in issuance costs by going through the counties, because then we don't have to have opinions from bond counsel that it's a legal thing and all this other stuff. So it saves us quite a bit of money in the transaction.
They have another loan with this where they're paying how much interest? 5%?
5.5%.
We can't get that much in our bank.
Let me ask you this. I'm kind of going back to the economic development courses they teach up at the School of Government. Have we vetted this full thing against state statutes with our attorney and
As far as it being a
legal?
grant?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I don't want to be in violation of state statutes or case law about.
We're dealing with 2 nonprofits and governmental entities. The Airport Authority by statute is a quasi-governmental entity. So we're not really giving them an economic development grant to a private industry.
Or a below market loan.
We can do that to them.
All right.
Well, you're dealing with a federal service, and the ones that I've seen across the country has generally turned out to be a fairly good.
Well, I don't question the investment. I'm just questioning the legality. I just want to make sure that we're on the up and up when we start doing below market loans and that kind of thing. We don't want to be in violation of state law.
Well, actually, 3% is the market for tax exempt financing right now.
Unsecured?
I don't know. We could probably get some security.
Hangar would be the security, wouldn't it?
Well, we could get the hangar as security if you wanted it.
At the end of the day, there's 2 people owning money, the city of Sanford and the county. At the end of the day, the city of Sanford and the county of Lee owns the whole kit and caboodle. I mean, the airport
itself.
We own. If you think about both parties are loaning $450. and we have met the enemy and they are us. I mean, it
Well,
is.
you said that true.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the assets of the authority, if the authority ever dissolved, would go 50-50 to the county and to the.
Well,
it's like loaning money to your child.
Yeah, I know. These things do get somewhat complicated in the legal dealings. I just want to make sure that what we've done is properly vetted and that we're not in violation of any rules.
For further input, Susan Patterson, the city attorney, and I were at a conference recently with Karen Malonza, who is with the School of Government, and we actually ran this deal by
You're good. Okay, super.
her.
Karen's the authority, so.
Yeah, there you go. Karen, it's not Karen.
Kara.
Karen, right.
I'd like to make the motion that this be approved as submitted.
Okay, motion
By point of disclosure, I'm holding the escrow money.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Hayes to recommend the approval of the loan to the airport authority. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. John, just curious, what do they use that reserve fund of almost $500,000 that you're controlling?
We hold that for future capital needs for the airport. And really what we're trying to hold it for right now is we're on the schedule for repaving, and our 10% match will be about $375,000. So we really want to hold on to that for that. I know, that's a great subject for Doc.
It is, and I'm still trying to find some source of funds so we can restore the indoor iron furnace. That's the greatest asset this county has, and it's, nobody seems to be interested about getting that last little money. Okay.
I think you raise that point at a future date of the Board of Commissioners. I would like that. I don't know if this is legit. I guess it is, to hold a public hearing or at least maybe a workshop of some sort, or we can brainstorm this again. You are correct. It's one of two industrial landmarks in the state of North Carolina. It's dissolving before our eyes into the deep river, and we've got to do something to stop that from happening and get moving forward with a state park or whatever out there. We've got to do something about that, not just give it lip service.
Well, if you'd like, I think at the next meeting, maybe
Yes.
meet
Yes,
early.
let's do that. It's
And have a
lot of us are
public
passionate
information
about
meeting on
getting
it.
done. Yeah.
Like
By Bob
Roadhouse
Bridwell.
members and
Yeah.
Bob Bridwell.
Yeah, we've got to get moving forward on something with that. And if maybe there's a rural economic grant of some sort that we can get to help us with that. I know they've accumulated a good amount of capital already.
There's a lot of private capital being
Yeah.
collected. And
Just for your information, I sit on the Railroad House board, and I know that they have a gift which was made years ago, and they have we have $300,000 approximately, but to use it, we have to do it prudently, and we're sort of waiting for these kinds of things to clarify and come together, or it's going to be money that will never be used as it was intended.
If we have a Hurricane Floyd, and we might not have an iron furnace.
Exactly.
So
it is truly going before our eyes. It is dissolving.
Landmark, out in where I live, we've got Old Pocket Academy. It's an old one-room school. Ed's very familiar with it. It's right there at our church. I've been trying for years to get someone interested in us doing something there. It's just an old one-room school. Probably dates back in the late 1800s.
By the way, I met with Jeffrey Crow, Deputy Secretary of Cultural Resources.
Really?
And they're very
Do you still have
interested
that
in
money
it.
earmarked for us? Because at
Yeah.
one time, Cultural
Well,
Resources had the money.
they want to get together
good
with us again to see if we can, because they realize it is important. So
Where'd you
Excellent.
run it again?
we in the round tables.
All right, very good. This next item under new business, item D, I've already taken care of. I had to reappoint Commissioner Parks because he had a meeting last week. We had to vote, right?
Yeah, Thursday.
So does anybody have any objection to me reappointing Commissioner Parks to the TARPO board?
What does TARPO do?
It's the rule.
Triangle Area Rural Planning Organization.
Transportation planning.
Like a Good deal to me, let's go.
And
If you don't
last,
have one, you can't get money from
That
DOT.
from DOT, yes.
last item under new business, I think was an item that Commissioner Womack had pulled, which is item K from the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll make this brief. There are two separate actions here, K1 and K2. Under K1, we're proposing to elevate the position of building maintenance supervisor to that of deputy director for general services. And I think I understand from the explanation that I've received from Joyce that we have a very senior director now, and that we need knowledge transfer to occur between him and some other person or persons, so that we don't have a brain drain when and if he chooses to retire, which we hope will never happen. So,
But he does have his 30 years.
right.
So
Now,
he could retire.
the simple question, and in the budget impact for elevating a position that we have was $16,000 in compensation plus $2,850, so roughly, $19,000 additional budget impact that was not in the budget for this year. And I guess my question is this the only course of action that we can pursue by, increasing or elevating a existing position in the county, rather than doing knowledge transfer in another form or fashion? Is that the only option we have?
Well, this is, first of all, this is a vacant position. The person who was the building maintenance supervisor retired. So instead of hiring a new building maintenance supervisor, we took a look at saying, okay, how can we get a person in place who would be that person who could step in for Russell when Russell decided to retire. And so we came up with this based off of the recommendation from the Evergreen Solutions audit. It's actually recommendation 6-7, where they said that we felt like that this was what they recommended, is that we take an existing person or an existing position, and they actually called it the assistant director. We just decided to use deputy instead of assistant.
You're saying the Evergreen audit, not the pay classification study. The Evergreen audit recommended the increasing the status of that position?
Yes, sir.
What was the budget impact they cited when they did theirs?
They said there would be none.
Okay.
Which
Okay, so
which we feel like there's also been some other retirements in the department.
We have two pending people that are looking at.
Some things are starting to fall together where we can reorganize the department, but I didn't want to mislead y'all and say, okay, if some other things don't happen. But we really believe there's no overall, financially, there'll be no impact overall to the department. So we're not asking for a lump sum out of the general fund balance to pay for this. We plan on covering this.
So you're going to do this with lapsed salary. You're going to cover this with lapsed salary. But this is a recurring requirement. So when you say you've got the funding to do it, you're talking about this current fiscal year.
And next year you would see.
So there would be a bump in the budget for next year because lapsed salary will no longer satisfy that requirement.
So actually it'd be a budget item for next year.
Yes, sir. It
Right.
would be an increase. In
Now, one last question I have, is it essential that you have this increase in position because of knowledge transfer, or is it because that we also have a need for this position long-term?
I think Russell, he might.
Well, if he wants to speak to it, he's welcome.
He might speak to it, but he is very, very busy. He works 6-7 days a week, and he spends a lot of time in contracts, bidding, and those types of things. And so I think that he really does need some assistance too, because the building maintenance supervisor was more out in the field doing work. He worked with his maintenance people, and he wasn't any help to Russell with doing some of the things that Russell does.
What's the difference? You said in the pay range of the guy that retired that was in that position. What and the
that is the difference
was it?
between
Okay.
the two.
Okay.
16,301.
All right. Okay.
And when did he retire?
He retired July 1st. Remember, he came in with the straw hat and.
Oh, yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Straw hat.
Mr. Womack, you ready to, did you get your questions answered?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion, what is emergency action on this one, to approve the budget amendment.
So moved.
The change in the pay classification plan.
Great decision.
Motion has been made to change the pay classification of these positions in general services. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay.
Nay.
5-1. Commissioner Walker? Oh, you did it. Okay.
Second position.
Oh, that was just the first
That was
position?
just the first position.
K2. 59.
K2 is on page 59. This is a reclassification of a position from maintenance mechanic to that of lead maintenance mechanic in the pay and classification plan. And again, it got a budget impact of $3,000 in compensation with fringe of $525. It says increase within the existing department budget again. And again, I guess it's the same question. That's lapsed salary that's doing that?
Yes.
But that only really is covered this year.
That's correct.
So it would represent a $3,500 increase in subsequent years.
Is this another evergreen solution?
Actually, this was ours.
I was gonna say if it's evergreen solution, I'm gonna vote for it because we paid $140,000 for that advice.
The previous maintenance supervisor, he was out in the field with the other maintenance people, and he sort of like directed their work, and he was a working supervisor also. And this position also will be a working supervisor, lead person, someone to keep it going when other things are going on.
So do we have a vacancy there in that position, or what?
The building maintenance supervisor retired, but what our intention is to promote from within and not replace a maintenance position, but just that the people in the department apply for a lead position, and one of them go into a lead position, and then we don't have a vacant position though. It's just someone to be the lead person for day-to-day things out in the field, because they're all over the county in different areas.
I want to repeat one thing I said earlier about this position as well, and that is that we have a budget cycle every year, and I would request that the departments, unless it's an emergency situation, that the departments would come in during the budget cycle with their requirements, lay them on the table, we consider them, and then we vote them, and then we don't have to address these things except on an emergency basis during a year. That's my biggest objection to this, is it's off budget and it increases. And then the other departments see one department do it, and then they're going to say, well, they did it, so I want to be able to do the same thing. And then we're creating for the county manager gamesmanship, okay, a situation of gamesmanship during the year. I don't like that.
Will this be another one that will take effect next year?
Well, they're taking effect now, but Mr. Womack is right. There'll be a larger impact in next year's budget when we sit down and do the budget. But, we've had several retirements in the department, positions that we're going to have to fill, but we have lapsed salary that's developing, and that's how we're going to pay for that without asking for additional funds.
So essentially, this was more like a supervisor, and how many people are you going to supervise?
Six.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to reclassify the position of maintenance mechanic to that of lead maintenance mechanic in the pay and the classification plan.
Okay, motion has been made. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Anybody besides Commissioner Walmack who nay? I could deal with it as an echo. Okay. 5-1. Are we finally through the agenda and we're ready for manager's report?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to, unless there's a lot of questions, I'm going to rifle through this pretty quickly. So I know we're getting late, but Ms. Minter is on vacation this week, well-deserved, and was one of the only weeks she could fit it in. So I am playing finance officer again this month. And we have two financial reports. We have the year ending June 30th, as you recall from last month. This was not ready. We were waiting for some additional expenditures and revenues to come in. And this financial statement is pretty much finalized for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2012, except we do not have all sales taxes and some other intergovernmental revenues recognized. So when you look at the end and you see that we have a revenues over and under of $3.7 million, I don't want anybody to panic just yet. The number will be under $2 million. So we will end up using some of our fund balance this year, but I think everybody understood that we were doing that this year. And it's actually going to be a little bit less than what we projected. The sales tax numbers for that are reflected in this, it would be May through May, and they continue to improve. So we're cautiously excited about the continued improvement in sales tax revenues. As you look at Article 39 and Articles 40 and 42, they continue to grow, and we're actually having a pretty good year and will exceed budget in sales tax revenues. But all expenditures are by department under budget for 2012. Be happy to answer any questions. If there are none, I'll go ahead and go on to the county, to the report for ending July 31st. Just shows 1 month of operations. As you can see, we don't have a lot of revenue in the first month because we're not collecting a lot of ad valorem taxes in that first month, and that's why we need fund balance. But expenditures were a little bit high because there's a lot of insurance, workers' comp, property and liability, dues, those types of things that are due in July, so we have to pay those up front, and that causes our expenditures to look a little high and be over the 8%.
Being that check is in the bank, that $250,000, will that help out a little bit?
No, ma'am, because we booked it as a receivable last year. So it's already in there. We're counting on receiving it. So, and going back to that, I didn't get to say it earlier, but you know, the Senator Burr's office got that letter and called me within a week, and they put a staff member on that, and they said we would be getting at least one check by the end of the month, and based on his report, they are following through on that. So it was a good letter, and we got some good response from that. Moving on to my manager's report, the Clyde Ryan Road Industrial Park project has finally gotten off of sitting still, and I gave you a pretty thorough report on where we are now in the design, but we hope to have our design finished the first week of September and have that to Diener for approval in that first week of September. So we're kind of under the gun to try to get the paving done before the end of this paving season, but we are pushing hard to try to make that happen. So hopefully that will work out. The courthouse basement project, if you haven't been over there yet, you probably should. It looks wonderful. Contractor's doing a great job, and it's 55% complete and is still expecting completion as of October 22nd. Still moving on Buchanan Park renovations, and if you drive around back of the building, the chiller has been delivered and is sitting in place back there, and our contractor is now reworking the plumbing to that, and hopefully will be completely converted in 2 weeks. In September, we'll be coming to you and asking you to declare the old chiller as surplus, and we've already had some interest in it. So yes, and that is not something that we budgeted. Maybe we can make a few bucks off of that.
All right.
Wanted to make you aware of a couple things going on in Parks and Rec. Sandley Park has been overflowing most of the summer. Been getting reports from Steve that on the weekends they're turning people away. Just overflowing, and what's really got it going is our mountain bike trail has, the word has gotten out that we have a world-class mountain bike trail, 9 miles, that can be extended out to about 12 miles. And NC State, we signed an agreement with them, and they are going to host a mountain bike competition for regional colleges in September.
Let me ask you to do something here. There's been a great discussion about the tourism authority, and part of the reason why this thing is, I think, just kind of languishing is because we failed to gather up all the diverse activities, whether they're recreational or park related or or entertainment related. If someone in the Parks and Rec department could start capturing all of these events and then doing a report back to the chamber and to the EDC and others, or to this board, I think it would be useful to know the kinds of things which go beyond the county boundaries, where we're bringing in people from outside, because I think that would be something that could be, we could help use to justify creating a tourism authority. This mountain bike trail, it's not the first time I've heard this. Several times we've had major events where we've had people coming in internationally into Lee County, and some of us weren't even aware they were coming in.
It's the gentleman that developed the park or developed the bike trail got a recognition by the governor, got a gold award or something like that for it, and it was made a pretty big deal across the state. So we can do that. The city is already capturing that, and what we need to do is we need to get on it with them and have that. They do it quarterly. They send out what's going on quarterly, and we need to get on their list of putting our information in there.
It'd be great if John would report to us things like, jamborees and other camping events that happen here, that kind of thing. Any major activity which is bigger than just the county, that we would be able to start capturing that information, and maybe that would help justify a tourism authority.
The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is conducting a citizen survey on the future of Horton Park, and the survey is accessible through our webpage. And we ask people to please take part. John Payne's also been out in the community in that area, and will go out again to try to get some citizens to give direct input to Parks and Recreation about what to do with that park. And hopefully we'll be coming to y'all and having some recommendations. That not opening the pool there for the last 3 summers is probably, I don't think a lot of people in that area have missed the pool. So if it's not going to be used, we're going to need to do something with it. Upcoming meetings, our next meeting is September 17th. I forgot to put on here about the Lee County Fair, the week of September 11th. Most of y'all will see me out there. I'll be parking with the Boy Scouts that week. And then in October we go back to 2 meetings, and you have an announcement in your packet about the Family Fun Day at the airport on October 6th. So have a new activity this year. There's been able to attract some folks that will do some whoop-de-doos up in the air with the airplanes, aerobatics. So ought to be exciting. That's my report, Madam Chair.
Okay. Now down to commissioners' comments. Betty is too, aren't you?
At the risk of offending Mr. Pascal, I did have a question I wanted to ask the 2 of you. If you could share with us anything about what's going on with the city and Broadway. I have a sort of street sense of what's happening, but I think I've had people say to me what's going on, and there are rumors out there of the decision being made that the minutes should be deep sixed, and that it perhaps is an overstatement, but is there anything that you can tell us, either of you, that would be helpful to the other commissioners on this board to know that 2 or 3 very good things are underway? Last time we talked about this, Mr. Crumpton was good enough to say that things were going, but there was no specificity to it, and I just wonder if you could share just a minute or 2 with us about your feeling, your impressions, and is the public to be invited into this process by way of reports or minutes or anything, for those who believe that any time 3 municipal bodies get together, there should be a record to attest to what was discussed.
Well, John, I'll let you talk about the whole public, because somebody started this horrible rumor that there's action being taken and these are actually a commission or public body, so let's lay that rumor to rest first.
Well, first of all, there are no official minutes of the meetings. And the intent of the meetings were to open a dialogue between the three boards. And there were some hard feelings over the sales tax distribution talk that we had, and there's still hard feelings over that. And hopefully, through conversations, we can mend those fences, because we have a lot of things going on. But the talks have been mainly at a general level. The group cannot do anything because they're not a majority of the board, of any of the boards. But the idea is that hopefully if we can get some things where the leaders of the boards can agree on things, they can go back to the boards and hopefully, have full board involvement on some initiatives in the future. I will say that, and I don't think I'll be out of line saying this, but economic development, the tourism, marketing board, the indoor iron furnace were the main topics at the last meeting. Good. And, I think there's a lot of interest in all three boards on, trying to get something going, from that standpoint. I think we're all waiting and I did talk to Bob Joyce today about this. I don't see Bob still here, but, that proposal that they made to us needed to be updated. Some more specific information needed to be in that proposal, and it needed to go to the city and the town because it has not gone to either yet. Mm-hmm. They've talked, but the presentation has not been made to the boards. Mm-hmm. So that needed to get going, and I felt, hopefully, all three boards can come together in the future and start discussing other things besides incentive agreements when it comes to economic development.
Well, let me ask you this. The first meeting, or first several meetings, am I correct, were hosted by the city? Or the last meeting was hosted by the city? My question is this.
No, sir.
Can that be shared, or are we going to?
Nobody hosted.
Oh.
Actually, the county put it together.
We put it together, and the college worked with us to facilitate, to get the participants there, and to facilitate the meeting so that it didn't get into political hassles or anything, and leave open, positive communications. And that's what we're striving for.
Thank you.
It was very good. I think everybody felt comfortable. So I heard a rumor today that, oh man, minutes were taken and whatever, and I'm thinking, who was at the meeting that I wasn't, or what meeting was I at that they weren't, or whatever, so.
Well, it is out and around like that, but what's new? But this is helpful. Thank you.
Charlie, any comments?
Yeah, I had very good time at the NACAA or CC.
North Carolina Association of ACC.
Anyway, that one. But I attended 4 workshops. 3 I thought were excellent workshops that we brought away from some new ideas. And one of the workshops I think needs some work, but it was very good to be able to sit down with other commissioners and just share ideas and what they're doing and some of the things that they're finding that work, some that doesn't, and they same thing with us. But all in all, I would highly recommend people going to it to see what's going on in our state and get involved with it.
Commissioner?
Well, I'm just glad to hear that we are meeting. I think I asked for that about 6 months ago.
You did, so it's Commissioner Reeves, and I think even Commissioner Hayes has recommended we get together.
But I'm glad you're meeting, and I hope we get something out of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Walden?
A couple items. One, it's not new news that I'm sit on the State Mining and Energy Commission board, and as the county commissioner rep for the state of North Carolina, and we have not been successful in getting together as our first meeting yet, and there's still some growing pains trying to put the board together up in Raleigh. The Department of Energy and Natural Resources or Environment and Natural Resources, is now putting together or is coordinating for us to try to get us our first meeting. There's also some deliberation with the Board of Ethics, the State Board of Ethics, to review our charter and our constituency to make sure that everything's on the up and up. We haven't, not having had our first meeting, I can't tell you, any prognosis or anything on where the county is perhaps headed with natural gas development, other than to say that we're standing ready. I know Councilman Taylor, myself, and Citizen Covington are all ready and willing to go to the first meeting and to get organized, and we'll keep this board informed, as well as the citizens of Lee County, about what we're doing in our deliberations. Second item is I also went up, I think people know I went up in July to visit a drilling site, or drilling sites up in Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, and we had a good visit up there. It was a short notice visit. I got, what did I get, 48 hours notice?
48
yeah.
hours.
But went up there and got a chance to go through a lot of the sites, most of the process of natural gas extraction, and I was really amazed at the professionalism and the quality control in the process. And if we could emulate that sort of thing here in Lee County, I would be very satisfied. And I think 99% of the citizens would be as well. They're super conscious about the environment and safeguards. They even collect the rainwater off the derricks, the oil derricks. They don't even let the rainwater go into the ground. There's nothing that's left unaddressed in those areas. So I was just really impressed. The last item, and I'm genuine in saying this, I am sincerely concerned that Lee County and Sanford may be on the verge of losing the Sanford Pottery Festival. Our annual pilgrimage from all parts of North Carolina and outside the state coming in here to show off their wares. There's every reason to be concerned that we may be losing it after a decade of great service. I'm not going to get into the details of it tonight, other than to say that it's number one on my priority list right now, to try to figure out what we can do to save that festival and to save the talent, the limited amount of talent that we have in this county towards that end. And I think it would be a great, it would be a tragic loss of an annual opportunity if we didn't find a way to shore up the industry. And I'm not talking about spending a lot of money or any money for that matter. It's just a matter of getting all the stakeholders in the Pottery Festival to work together collaboratively. And I think we need to do that. And I know I'll get a head nod from everybody on this board. I just want to send out that message to the city and the Chamber of Commerce and everyone else concerned that we're going to need to do something quick and effective if we're going to save pottery in Lee County.
Amen. I'd like to stand down. We really do need to consider this seriously.
Well, I have no comments, and so we have closed session.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, I've been putting it all away.